Well, I think something might have already gone wrong, but more on that later. Of course, do get your thoughts in. gbnews.com/your say is the way to get involved in all of the conversations that we're having today throughout the programme.
Yes, I do want your thoughts on this Palestine Action ruling. So the government chose to ban this group, and now the High Court have ruled against them. The government now saying that they're going to pursue this further. What a mess. And what an unnecessary win for Palestine Action now.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be discussing that and so much more after your very latest news headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Tom, Emily, thank you and good afternoon. It's just gone 12 o'clock. These are your headlines. Palestine Action has won a High Court challenge against the Home Office's decision to ban it as a terror group. The proscription, which began last summer, made being a member of the group or supporting it a criminal offence punishable by up to 14 years in prison. However, it will remain outlawed for now to allow further arguments, and the Home Secretary has said the government will appeal. The Met Police, meanwhile, said it would focus on gathering evidence of potential offences where support for Palestine Action is expressed, rather than making arrests at the time in its response to the ruling. Now, world leaders are arriving for talks at the Munich Security Conference today. Officials will discuss the top issues facing the world in 2026, including the transatlantic alliance and Europe's security architecture. As he made his way to Germany, the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned Europe of a new era in geopolitics ahead of a major speech. Meanwhile, back in the UK, the Prime Minister has faced a Whitehall revolt over his decision to sack Britain's most senior civil servant. The Times is reporting that government officials refused to sign off on the move because it would cost the taxpayer £250,000 that could not be justified. Sir Keir Starmer overrode their concerns and agreed to the payout and sacked Sir Chris Wormald. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho called out the Prime Minister's lack of control.
It's chaos. I mean, that's what it looks like. He is going through personnel like he's running through water. And at the moment, you know, he sacked his director of comms. He's not got a cabinet secretary, and it's not clear who is running the country.
Elsewhere, Bangladesh's Nationalist Party have claimed victory in their first election since the Gen Z uprising. The BNP, headed by Tariq Rahman, won a two-thirds majority months after he returned from 17 years in exile in London. The vote was Bangladesh's first national election since the July uprising of 2024 and was widely seen as a referendum against the ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. He has made many big promises, including to empower women, who form half of the population of the country. US President Donald Trump has reversed a key Obama-era scientific ruling that underpins all federal actions on curbing planet-warming gases. The move has been criticised by environmental groups, but the White House has called the reversal the largest deregulation in American history, saying it would make cars cheaper and bring down costs for automakers. Elsewhere, NASA and SpaceX are launching 4 astronauts into space to take them into the International Space Station. The SpaceX rocket lifted off from Florida this morning with a crew of 2 US NASA astronauts, a French astronaut and a Russian cosmonaut. They're all headed for the International Space Station for an 8-month science mission in Earth orbit. And a 4-day health alert for cold weather has begun in England amid an Arctic blast of cold air, as the Met Office warned of snow and ice in some areas. The alert covers central and northern areas and runs until 8 a.m. on Monday. Today is set to feel much colder for the UK, with temperatures plummeting overnight, bringing the first widespread frost of February. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for the finance.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3618 and €1.1484 euros. The price of gold is £3,635 and 53 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100's at 10,040 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It is 7 minutes past 12 now, and the High Court has ruled that the ban of Palestine action under terrorism legislation is unlawful.
Yes, the judges ruled that the ban must remain in place until the next hearing, however, on the 20th of February takes place.
Well, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, expressed her disappointment at the decision, adding that the government will appeal the High Court's decision.
Well, the former Attorney-General, Sir Michael Ellis, joins us now. Sir Michael, a lot of people will be fairly gobsmacked that a court can overturn a resolution of both houses of Parliament. This wasn't just a minister that said, let's ban Palestine action. The Commons voted for this, the Lords voted for this. But because it was secondary rather than primary legislation, the courts are able to undo it.
Well, I'm afraid that we've got courts out of control in this country, and we have had for quite some time. This is judicial overreach. We are already seeing examples of parliamentary sovereignty being infringed by the actions of the court. Look, these issues, in this country, we have an executive, a legislature, and a judiciary. And the balance between those three branches of government is very important. What we've seen in recent years in many areas, particularly in the immigration area, is judicial overreach. The judicial branch is becoming more and more assertive. It has become more and more ready to overturn the very clear decisions made in Parliament. And, for that matter, very clear decisions made by the executive, in other words, by ministers of the Crown, by secretaries of state like Shabana Mahmood and Yvette Cooper, who made this decision about Palestine action in July of last year. So what we've seen with this ruling is it elicits the question, who is running this country? Is it ministers in government or is it judges? Because if judges are substituting their own decisions, their own opinions for the rulings that are made by secretaries of state, then that must be wrong. What seems to have happened here, Tom and Emily, is that the court has acknowledged that, according to Shabana Mahmood, that Palestine action was carrying out acts of terrorism, that it promoted the use of violence and so on, but the court ruled that it was disproportionate to proscribe them under the Terrorism Act 2000. This is the first time in the 25 years that that act has been in force that a court has seen fit to overrule a Home Secretary. And that, as you've pointed out, Tom, is despite rigorous and evidence-based processes, including, of course, an endorsement by both houses of Parliament. It's quite an extraordinary ruling. And I think the court recognises that because it's stayed its opinion until a decision can be made about appeal.
So, Michael, good afternoon. Nice to see you. So what happens next for the government? Where do they go with this?
Welcome back, by the way, Emily. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Well, look, I think there's two ways the government could go on this. I mean, I'm absolutely convinced, and I think Shabana Mahmood has already said this, that she'll appeal to the Court of Appeal. This was a High Court ruling by three judges sitting in the High Court in London. Now it'll go to the Court of Appeal. I suspect the Court of Appeal may even have up to 5 judges sitting, and it may even include the Lady Chief Justice in this particular case. It's a matter of significant importance. And I wouldn't be surprised if it goes further even than that. But ultimately, the thing the government can do, if it keeps being stopped by the courts, is to pass an individual Act of Parliament. That then, a primary piece of legislation, not a secondary piece of legislation, that would get its way. And the courts would find very, very difficult indeed to interfere with that.
Absolutely, and yet it does seem that secondary legislation that has the endorsement of both houses should carry some sort of weight with the judiciary. And yet what we have peculiarly in this country, as you've been mentioning, this judicial overreach, and perhaps this idea that politicians sort of grow up with a lot of American media and believe that our court system works exactly the same way as the American does, which is a separation of powers. And yet we have the very opposite of that. Our Supreme Court justices are members of the legislature. They're members of the House of Lords. That's the very opposite of a separation of powers. Our executive are members of the legislature too. It is the most fused sense of fusion of powers. Traditionally, the judiciary has not been at the top. It's been Parliament that's been at the top.
That's right, that's right. And it still is Parliament, constitutionally, under the constitution of this country. Parliament is supreme. What it says is law. Whereas in America, and this is where Tony Blair, when he created the Supreme Court, got it so wrong, because even the name Supreme Court is a misnomer. And I have to say, putting it bluntly, I think it's given judges a superiority complex, because in America, it's justifiable to call it the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court in Washington can overturn acts of Congress if it rules that an act of Congress is out with the Constitution of the United States. But our judges have never been able to do that. They're supposed to interpret the will of Parliament. It's very clear here from resolutions of both houses what the will of Parliament was. This matter went through considerable analysis. It was a rigorous and evidence-based approach. The Home Secretary didn't make this decision off her own back, on a sort of Sunday lunchtime, over a cup of tea. This was a decision made with a committee to advise her, with officials, with a parliamentary liaison, and yet the court has said that in their opinion, it was disproportionate. The question we have to ask ourselves is, why is their opinion about the disproportionality able to push out the opinion of the serving Home Secretary? We have to surely have a situation where cabinet ministers are able to make decisions without constantly being second-guessed. And if the court has made the ruling that it has in this case, and said, well, the Home Secretary was right about all of these things that her lawyers claimed in the court, but nevertheless, we still think it was disproportionate, then I think that's an issue of judicial overreach. And it's something I know that the Court of Appeal will be asked to consider. Now, to be fair, Tom and Emily, there is another argument, which is that it has been suggested that the government was wrong to proscribe Palestine action in the first place, and they could have taken the ordinary course of criminal justice actions against persons who commit offences. But ultimately, that's a decision that the court has been asked to make, and it's made a decision that I think is highly controversial, and it's proven by the fact that it's the first time in 25 years the Home Secretary has been overruled when prescribing a group.
Well, very interesting. Sir Michael Ellis, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Great to see you. Difficult one for the government going forward, isn't it? Yeah. There's, I imagine, a lot of Labour Party members and Labour politicians who don't approve of this prescription to begin with.
But I think
now more time, resources, political will, etc., spent on this.
I think it's important to have these as two separate issues, because, I mean, I think it was a pretty cat-handed policy in the first place. I think it's been counterproductive in some senses, actually.
Well, that's been proven now, hasn't it?
The rights and wrongs of the idea are one thing. The separate thing is what is the correct constitutional thing, and whether you agree with the prescription or not, surely it should be a decision for Parliament, not for judges.
Yeah, and it's the ECHR, isn't it, that they go to, as ever. Anyway, it's been a turbulent week, has it?
Just a little bit.
And we're going to be reflecting a little on that, because he's in Munich, isn't he?
He absolutely is. Well, Sir Keir Starmer, after this very turbulent week, the Prime Minister has gone to Munich. He's set to meet with European allies amidst growing hostility from President Trump and, of course, threats from Russia as well.
Yes, so perhaps this trip will provide a little bit of welcome respite from his domestic troubles. Only yesterday, Cabinet Secretary Sir Chris Wormald was ousted from Number 10, just days after Morgan McSweeney resigned as Starmer's Chief of Staff, of course, following the Peter Mandelson scandal. And
that's not to mention, of course, the Prime Minister's Director of Communications, Tim Allen, out the door as well. 3 in a week. Is there anyone left in Downing Street? I'm not actually quite sure.
It's a complete clear-out, isn't it? Reset number whatever. But with the Prime Minister's position potentially hanging by a thread, should Sir Keir be prioritising foreign policy over troubles back home?
Well, joining us now live from Munich is our very own chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster. Catherine, thank you indeed for joining us. The Prime Minister has got a lot on his plate. What's he doing in Germany?
Oh, he certainly has got a lot on his plate, and I think he'll actually be quite relieved to get here, but a change is as good as a rest, because things are not easy are they on the global stage. And in fact, the Munich Security Conference meets every year here in Munich. There's about 450 leaders, very important people, get together from all over the world to talk about security, to talk about defence. We've got about 50 world leaders and heads of state coming. Now, the Prime Minister was not here last year, though I was for GB News, but last year was a real moment in time because J.D. Vance, the American Vice President, came to Munich, and he didn't talk about how the US would stand by Europe and support Ukraine. He basically attacked Europe, saying that they'd let far too many immigrants in, which was destroying their culture, saying they were suppressing free speech. It went down incredibly badly, and it came just a day or two after Donald Trump, only a couple of weeks in office, had picked up the phone to Putin and talked for 1.5 hours. And everything changed at that point, just as it had also changed, of course, when Russia invaded Ukraine. So the Prime Minister is here, or actually not here yet. I think we've beat him to it. We'll be arriving in the next hour or so. He's having meetings with the E3 this afternoon. That's President Macron, Chancellor Merz of France and Germany, respectively. The Prime Minister will be speaking tomorrow, and the focus fundamentally will be twofold. On Ukraine, of course, and also on the high north, on how to best defend the Arctic, because we know that Donald Trump is very worried about Greenland. He has said that he has to have it because that's the only way that they can keep it safe from Russia and China. So we've already seen the UK Defence Secretary John Healey has promised to double the number of Royal Marines training in Norway, up to 2,000 in the coming years. And the Munich Security Conference, the logo this year is an elephant with bits of it missing, and it says under destruction. It says we are now in an era, a world of wrecking ball politics. I expect there'll be a lot of pressure on countries who've made that pledge to spend 5% of GDP on defence to get there much, much quicker. At the moment, the promises that the UK have made are many, many years away.
Now, Catherine, a lot of our viewers will have noticed there's quite the hubbub behind you. Is that some kind of demonstration taking place?
Honestly, we literally arrived here about 7 minutes before the live, straight from the airport. Well, we think it is, yes, an Iranian rally. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of songs. I hope that you've been able to hear me. When I was here last year, there was a pro-Palestine rally actually on the Sunday, but it's a very, very beautiful backdrop. After this live, we will be going to the security conference and see what's actually going on inside.
Brilliant stuff. Well, Catherine Forster, thanks indeed for being there for us, and we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
Well, there you go. Now we've got some breaking news to bring you. A 25-year-old man who tried to kill a uniformed British Army officer near an army barracks in Kent has been sentenced to a life sentence with a minimum term of 7 years and 162 days and will be detained in hospital for as long as necessary.
So just to emphasise that, Anthony Essan repeatedly stabbed Lieutenant Colonel Mark Teaton in the neck, face and body using 2 knives in Sallyport Gardens near Brompton Barracks in Chatham on the 23rd of July 2024.
Well, we're going to take you outside the court very shortly, so do stick with us. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News.
But indeed, there's lots more still to come. Yes, Tony Blair's Institute turns the heat up on Ed Miliband, demanding a rethink on Labour's energy ban. But after the break...
A fierce row over new gender guidance for schools. Critics are warning that Labour has opened the door to primary pupils as young as 4 socially transitioning.
Well, all of that, and it is a lot, and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We were looking earlier at the coin that the Australian Mint have minted, a commemorative coin of the late Queen Elizabeth. Everybody is noting that even though it's selling apparently like hot cross buns for $100, it doesn't look like her at all. I think we've got the picture and we can show you. But
I can see
one of our viewers, lovely viewers, has texted in already and said, she looks like Hyacinth Bouquet.
Yeah.
She does, doesn't she?
She does a little bit.
She doesn't look like the Queen.
I mean, I can see how it is the Queen, but it's because it's face on, and it's you don't get the sort of depth of it in a way. So she just looks rounder, flatter.
Yes, I'd say that.
Whereas
I'd say so.
It's not a coin that's going to be used as money. What do you call it? It's not
legal tender.
Legal tender.
Oh, is it not legal tender?
No, it's just a commemorative coin. So I suppose instead of doing it the traditional way of just a profile pic, they've gone for something a bit, well, more personality, a bit warmer.
They've given her a funny grin as well.
Very odd mouth.
Didn't coins used to like that used to be legal tender though?
They can be. It depends where you get them.
Right.
Depends. I mean, because sometimes they do ones that are minted in Jersey and things that you get over here, which you can't spend. But some of them you can. I mean, if you get the commemorative coins over here from the Royal Mint, then you can technically spend them, but people aren't obliged to take them.
I've been to a branch of the Royal Mint.
Have you? Did you nick anything?
No, of course I didn't.
I would have done.
Well, Piers Pottinger is with us actually here in the studio as well, and he's just sort of said, actually, it looks a bit more like Les Dawson.
Yep.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 24 minutes past midday. Now, there's fury today as Labour's new transgender guidance for schools has opened the door for primary school children as young as 4 to socially transition.
Yeah, so the government is proposing that schools must maintain single-sex spaces, including separate toilet facilities for boys and girls over the age of 8, even if they do allow students to socially gender transition. So what's going on here?
Well, joining us now is the CEO of the LGB Alliance, Kate Barker. Kate, this is a change from the previous guidance that was drawn up under the Conservatives.
Well, that's right. I mean, it is progress, and we do welcome that. Teachers are so at the sharp end of all of this, and they've been absolutely crying out for guidance for years. So it's arrived, and there are some really good things in it. So mainly that speak to really vital provisions around safeguarding. So mixed-sex toilets are out. Mixed-sex sleeping on school trips is out. So it does show that there's a clear recognition that there are sex differences and that those differences matter. But I think the issue is that the guidance kind of suggests that there are a small number of children who may be born in the wrong body. And it's clear that the government's desire for some kind of compromise in this area is really ill-conceived. If you try to make policy around the false premise that a child can be born in the wrong body, it's absolutely inevitable that that policy will unravel. And the problem with it, apart from it being false and that no child is born in the wrong body, is that encouraging a child to affirm their delusion that they are, I think it's just a really cruel trick that's going to store up problems for that child in the future. And it's not just that child. The guidance does sort of suggest, well, look, it's only going to be a small handful, so, there needs to be some way to manage these kids. And that's fine, and that's true. However, if you transition one child in a school, the rest of the school, the rest of the children are sent that message that being gender incongruent or having gender distress is an actual state of being, rather than the truth, which is that's a reflection of some other issue that's going on in the child's life. So whether it's trauma or it's abuse, or it could be that that child has got a growing sense that they may be same-sex attracted. But that idea is kind of inflicted on all of the children. And I really do feel for the teachers having to sort of stuck in the middle of all of this, because if they have to, for example, tell John that he agree that John can be Jane, but also explain, how are they also going to explain to John that he cannot then get changed with the girls for sports or sleep in the girls' tent in the mixed sex camping? How are the rest of the children in the school meant to interpret that message that you kind of can change sex, but sex exists? So I think there's a bit of a muddle there, and there's a squeamishness from the government about addressing that real fundamental, that it is false that somebody can be born in the wrong body. And it's not just in the education department where they're suffering from this.
Kate, do you have any idea of... it sounds as though it's going to be incredibly messy. As you say, if you have an 8-year-old whose parents back their child, a girl, born a boy, the parents agree that actually they should be socially transitioned to be a boy instead, then everyone in the classroom has to then call them by their preferred pronouns, but then they're using their biological sex toilets and facilities. It's going to be absolutely confusing. There has been quite a lot of pushback on this. Do you agree with Baroness Amanda Spielman, the former head of Ofsted? She says this gives too much leeway for schools to permit a child to transition while keeping it secret from their parents. She's claimed that young children could be encouraged to tell schools they don't feel safe at home in order then to be able to transition at school.
I agree, absolutely. There are an awful lot of activist teachers who are pushing this agenda, and we had hoped that the guidance would go some way to curbing their overreach and their influence in classrooms. But that doesn't seem to be the case. And it's really a safeguarding red flag when you're implying that a child may go to a teacher and do something secretly that they're not going to then tell another adult. So we're really, really concerned about that. But it's something that we see across the whole government. We saw Wes Streeting saying that he's uncomfortable about the puberty blockers trial, and so he should be. But it's exactly the same issue. There's a reluctance to say no child is born in the wrong body. Yes, there are children who feel distressed about their gender or who have other issues that need to be addressed. But there somehow seems to be an acceptance that this trans child is a real being. And I think until that idea is really comprehensively dismantled and it's treated as a it's not a fact.
Kate, do you believe that there are transgender adults?
I believe there are people who are intensely unhappy with their own bodies, who have a range of different issues, and I think there are a very small number of adults who, having been through therapy and considered all the options, would feel better if they had a cosmetic surgery to look a bit more like the sex they wished they were. It does not mean that they are that sex. There is no state of having been born in the wrong body, but there are lots of people who feel distressed, including children, about their own bodies. And it cannot be right to give those children drugs or to transition them to affirm that delusion.
Yeah, it's worth noting that this guidance isn't about giving children drugs at all, but it just seems to me this is a matter of degree.
It's the first step. Social transitioning is the first step towards that. If your parents are saying, OK, you're a boy when you were born a girl, if then the school is also saying it, then all your peers at school are also having to use those pronouns. You're going to continue heading in that direction, are you not, until someone tells you, actually, no.
Yeah.
You are what you were born.
It just seems to me we had a more healthy discussion about this back in the, decades past, when this was such a niche issue that, I mean, when we really are talking about a tiny handful of cases, and people might know people who grew up. I certainly, when I was learning to sail in the very early 2000s, there was a friend of mine who was biologically female but wanted to sail with the boys, and she did, and had a
That's
nickname
different.
that
Did
we
anyone
used,
call her a boy?
but I worry about sometimes the prescriptive designation of what can be done. Under this guidance, would my friend have been allowed to sail with me, for instance, with the boys, or would she have had to go with the girls?
I think, I mean, I was a big fan of Enid Blyton, and I like George as the character in The Famous Five. George wasn't transgender. George was a tomboy. And people are allowed to push back against regressive stereotypes about how you should act and what you should look like, and that's fine.
But my point, Kate, is that sometimes this guidance might actually accidentally, not that it's intended to do that at all, but might prevent those tomboys or whatever from kicking a ball about.
But so does
with a group
transgender
of boys.
ideology, and that's one of the problems. You don't fit into the box of what it is to be a female. I've got to be a boy then. Kate, we're going to have to leave it there. Kate Barker, thank you very much indeed, CEO of LGB Alliance. Let us know what you make of it at home. Is this an improvement, or has this just opened up a new kettle of fish? Can of worms.
Can of worms. Can of fish.
The worms are everywhere.
Kettle of worms.
Kettle of worms.
Diet of worms.
Yeah, no.
But that's,
I've been talking about nappies and things for a long time, so bear with.
I accidentally slipped into doing a Martin Luther reference, but we'll move on from the diet of verms.
Well, I'm going to put it out there that I don't think you should be socially transitioning kids at school, particularly not at primary school.
I think it should be less government and more parents, but
then the teachers have to, do what the parents say.
Thorny. Well, the Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has said that new guidance would deliver pragmatic support for teachers, reassurance for parents, and above all, the safety and well-being of children and young people. So says Bridget Phillipson.
OK, well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We've got a huge amount coming up on today's show.
But first, here are your latest news headlines.
Your headlines at 12:33. A 25-year-old man who tried to kill a uniformed British Army officer near an army barracks in Kent has been sentenced to a life sentence with a minimum term of 7 years and 162 days and will be detained in hospital for as long as necessary. Anthony Assan repeatedly stabbed Lieutenant Colonel Mark Teaton in the neck, face and body using 2 knives near the barracks in Chatham on the 23rd of July 2024. Palestine Action has won a High Court challenge against the Home Office's decision to ban it as a terror group. However, it will remain outlawed for now to allow further arguments, and the Home Secretary has said the government will appeal. Sir Keir Starmer is joining world leaders in Germany today for the Munich Security Conference. Officials will discuss the top issues facing the world in 2026, including the Transatlantic Alliance and Europe's security architecture. Meanwhile, back in the UK, the Prime Minister has faced a Whitehall revolt over his decision to sack Britain's most senior civil servant. The Times is reporting that government officials refused to sign off on the move because it would cost the taxpayer £250,000 that could not be justified. And 2 Met Office yellow weather warnings are in force for snow and ice across Scotland and northern England as Arctic air makes a chilly return. Those are your headlines for now. I'll have more news at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Thanks very much. Lots more still to come on today's programme.
Yes, Ed Miliband. He's under fresh pressure. The Tony Blair Institute has called for a dramatic rethink when it comes to North Sea drilling.
Well, all of that, and of course the latest on that court decision, where we will be in just a few moments' time, all after your latest... After the break. Where am I? Is it
Am I
me
putting you
that's
off?
been away
Am I
for 6
making you
months?
nervous?
I
Am I
think
making you nervous?
this is exactly what's happening. Well, this is GB News, allegedly Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello.
Hello, very good day to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. For many of us, it is another wet day, but actually across the north, we have clearer, sunnier skies and also colder air making its way through. There's an area of low pressure just to the southwest of us at the moment. This is shifting a bit further southwards as we go through the day, and a front makes its way southwards as well. And it's this front that's bringing a lot of cloud, a lot of rain across central parts of England and Wales at the moment, also some hill snow. Further outbreaks of rain towards the south as well, and all of this is shifting southwards. That's allowing for the sunnier skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland to edge a bit further south as well, but worth noting there are a few showers here and there. Despite the sunshine in the north, temperatures a bit suppressed, mid-single figures at best. Some places towards the south may just about scrape into double digits. Through this evening then, a largely fine end to the day across many places, albeit quite a chilly start to the night with those clear skies. Watch out for a few showers towards northern parts of Scotland, and these could be a wintry mix of some sleet and snow. Lots of clear skies to start the night across Northern Ireland. A cloudier story though across England and Wales. More rain to come and still a bit of hill snow at times. But as we go through the rest of the day and overnight, we're going to see a lot of this cloud, a lot of this rain clearing away. And whilst there will be a few showers dotted around, mainly towards the north of Scotland and down the eastern side of England, most places will turn largely dry with largely clear skies as well. And with those clear skies then, temperatures are going to drop. Widely we're going to see them falling a bit below freezing, but we could get as low as -10 Celsius in some parts of Scotland. That does mean we're going to wake up to a frosty and for many of us icy start to the day tomorrow, but it is going to be largely sunny. Just a couple of showers here. A bit more cloud pushing in from the west, mainly high-level clouds, so just turning the sunshine milky to begin with before some wet weather arrives later on. Temperatures, well, lower than today, but there will be more sunshine around.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. On the A720 eastbound at Old Craighall, traffic is restricted due to a broken down vehicle. On the A55 Britannia Bridge, high winds remain in place until further notice. In West Yorkshire, the M62 westbound between Junction 26 and Junction 25 is slow with congestion, easing from 1:45 this afternoon. In Nottinghamshire, the A1 northbound between the A46 and the A57 is also busy, with conditions improving from 12:42 this afternoon. And on the trains, major disruption affects the Elizabeth Line and Great Western Railway services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 20-1. Now, a 25-year-old man who tried to kill a uniformed British Army officer near an army barracks in Kent has been sentenced to a life sentence with a minimum term of 7 years and 162 days.
And he'll be detained in hospital for as long as necessary. Yes, Anthony Eason, there you go, repeatedly stabbed Lieutenant Colonel Mark Teaton in the neck, face and body using 2 knives in Sallyport Gardens near Brompton Barracks, Chatham, on the 23rd of July, 2024.
Well, joining us now is our national reporter, Will Godley, who's outside the court. Will, a significant sentence.
Yeah, Tom, Emily, a long sentence and one that the judge came to after a 4-day sentencing here at Maidstone Crown Court, in which the court heard the details of this attack. Lieutenant Colonel Mark Teaton was just moments from home when Anthony Eason attacked him. He was dressed in full army uniform. And that is when Eason attacked him in broad daylight. He said he used 2 knives, as you said, to inflict his wounds on Colonel Teaton's face, his neck and his body, attempting to murder him. And last month, Eason pleaded guilty to attempted murder, and the details of what he inflicted on Colonel Teaton we heard in court today. And the judge ruled he only attacked Colonel Teaton because he was in military uniform, and the attack was so gruesome that his wife, Eileen, heard the attack from home. She rushed to the scene to see what was happening, to see a soldier being attacked. Her actions were described by the judge as remarkable, how she pushed the attacker off the soldier, and only then she realised it was her husband who was being attacked. Well, Justice Picken spoke in court today saying this is the most appalling attack on a serving soldier. The horror of the attack was unimaginable. The courage shown by the whole family has been nothing short of remarkable. Well, in court today, we also heard how Eason was suffering from psychosis and schizophrenia at the time of this attack. He thought he was a character in a video game when he carried out this attack. But a judge also ruled it was a combination of his, what the judge said was animus to the army that led to this attack as well, saying the attack was targeted and deliberate. You were looking for a soldier with the intention that that soldier should die. Well, the judge handing down this life sentence today, and reacting to that sentence outside court, Lieutenant Colonel Mark Teaton spoke a little bit earlier on.
We welcome the sentence that has been handed to my attacker today, as it reflects the incredible bank of evidence gathered by the police and presented by our barrister of the premeditation and planning involved in the attack against myself, an officer wearing British military uniform. Knife attacks do not just impact the victim, they impact the families and communities where attacks occur. We feel the pain caused by every knife attack that we see on the news, and our thoughts will always be with those affected.
Well, that sentence is a life sentence with a minimum term of 7 years and 162 days. The judge ruling that Eason will spend as long as necessary in Broadmoor High Security Hospital, telling Eason he still presents a significant risk to members of the public, and said it's unlikely he will ever be released back into the community.
OK, well, Will Godley, thank you indeed for being there for us. This is obviously a very significant finding, a very significant sentencing. We'll have more on it throughout the programme and indeed throughout the day.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Will, for being there outside the court. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up. Yes, we are going to be discussing Tony Blair's latest intervention into climate change issues, energy issues. He wants us to start drilling in the North Sea again. What's Red Ed going to have to say about that one?
Absolutely. So we'll have much on that. Also coming up in the programme, should 16-year-olds be voters, given the number of rights and responsibilities that have been set at the age of 18? Are we redefining what it means to be an adult in this country?
Not sure about that. Should they vote? I'm not sure many of you are going to think they should, but you never know. It might divide. We are going to get a quick update on the holiday sun in case you're off somewhere nice like, I don't know, Tenerife.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Having seen so much stormy weather across parts of Western Europe recently, finally a change is on the way. It's still windy this weekend in Spain, Portugal and across much of Italy. Spells of rain moving in here, reaching eventually parts of Greece and Croatia. But it is looking drier and brighter for much of Spain and Portugal despite that strong wind. And that steady improvement continues into next week. Still breezy with showers around, but not as stormy as it has been.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. This is Good Afternoon Britain. Now, yes, it's 12:48 and Tony Blair has waded into the net zero debate, and it could be bad news for Ed Miliband.
Yes, Blair says the Energy Secretary's flagship policy is not fit for purpose. And he's urged Miliband to abandon his crackdown on North Sea oil and gas.
Yes, Blair has endorsed a report by his own think tank that says lifting the ban on new drilling licences would be worth £165 billion to the economy.
And this comes as Donald Trump has reversed a key Obama-era scientific finding that tied greenhouse gas emissions to climate change. Well, to all sorts of pollution and health effects, I think, was the big claim there. It claimed that ending vehicle emissions standards will save US taxpayers almost $1 billion.
Well, we're joined now by the director of the Climate Media Coalition, Donncha McCarthy. Donncha, it's not good news for the climate change lobby.
It's not good news for drivers either. The extraordinary announcement in America is that they'll save $1 billion for the taxpayer, but actually they're talking about $1 trillion extra costs in fuel costs. In the United Kingdom, at the moment, because of carbon regulations, drivers are already saving around $2.1 billion a year because they have more efficient cars. The announcement in America by Trump, one of the main consequences of it is that cars do not have to be as efficient. That's going to cost drivers a huge amount of money.
Well, I mean, it won't mean that cars will necessarily change. What it means is that the government no longer forces a car to be a certain way. There'll be lots of cars that say, we're going to sell you a car because it's more efficient. There'll be other companies that say, we'll sell you a car that's cheaper but less efficient. I mean, people will have consumer choice.
What has happened in the United Kingdom, we have plenty of consumer choice over cars, but over the last 10 years, they've become more efficient because of the regulations, and that's saving drivers $2.5 billion. And the other thing that Tony Blair is proposing is that we abolish the windfall tax. What is the windfall tax? It was actually a tax to try and claw back the £70 billion of taxpayer subsidy to the oil industry post-Ukraine. It was the Tory introduced it post-Ukraine to claw back the billions that we were giving in subsidies to the oil industry.
Can I just pick you up on this?
Absolutely.
Because very, very regularly people say we subsidise our oil and gas sector. Yes. If that were the case...
No, I'm talking about specifically... I'm not talking about the wider subsidy. I'm talking about the specific subsidy that the taxpayer did to the energy payers.
I see, because paying half of the country's energy bills.
No. When post-Ukraine,
yes,
oil prices went through the roof.
Yes.
Oil industry made a huge profit. We had to subsidise the taxpayer, the consumer, to get him through that crisis. That cost us $70 billion. The windfall tax is trying to claw that back.
Are you talking about the Truss-era energy price cap for households?
No, well, the price cap that kicked in after the Ukraine crisis.
Yes, exactly.
That cost us 70 billion.
Yes, it did.
And we should claim it back, shouldn't we?
There is an argument.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. We're on the same page.
But there is an argument.
That's what Blair is calling for.
There is an argument that actually the windfall tax, more than 80% tax that we place on oil and gas, it doesn't raise money because we don't create as much oil and gas. I mean, this is one of the few places, perhaps, where the Laffer curve applies.
Well, this is the point, isn't it, Donica? Because the Tony Blair Institute, now I don't know what you make of the Tony Blair Institute, but it's not, a far-right organisation, is it? They're actually looking at this and thinking, we'd do better as a country, we'd do better as an economy, we'd do better with our energy independence if we actually did a bit more drilling in the North Sea. Have you been up to Aberdeen recently?
Yes, Aberdeen recently, and what's happened in Aberdeen? They've lost 30% of jobs under the last Tory administration. Why? Because it is a declining oil field.
No, because of the regulations, the taxes, the uncertainty over what the government's going to do next.
Are you saying under the Tory government, the regulations
under the Tories, under Labour now, worse now?
The oil field is around 68% depleted. No, that is physics. It's not regulations. It's a mature oil field. It's been declining. You know what year did North Sea oil peak?
I think it
probably
peaked in the 1990s.
Yes, 1999, 1999. It's been declining every year because even if we open all of the licences that we give, it's only postponing for around 6% of the time. What we should
hang on, no, but this is a very silly way to look at it, is it not? Because ultimately, we have energy demands now.
Yes.
And if we are, for instance, to build a lot of nuclear power, which you and I may agree on, it's clean, it's green, it's good. OK, perhaps we don't. That's a shame.
It's expensive.
But if we are going to have this transition to having, let's say, lots of nuclear, but perhaps lots of solar that might get better over time, all the rest of it. I'm more sceptical about the efficiency of wind. But we need oil and gas now before all that stuff is built.
And the oil and gas, the government isn't proposing to close down existing fields. We're talking about new licences that will come on stream in 10 to 15 years' time, when our need for fossil fuels will be collapsing. By 2035, we're talking about 0.5% of the grid will be gas. At the moment, it's only 28%.
It's very pessimistic to think it takes 15 years to get this stuff out of the ground.
Well, look at the licensing process.
It
it takes that time. And actually, what we should be doing, and what I think is very fascinating is that Blair... You asked me what I thought about the Blair Institute. Tony Blair has made £29 million from an oil billionaire in Kazakhstan. The institute is funded by the Saudis.
So you think this is him just playing to that? Playing to that audience?
I think over the last couple of weeks...
We're going to have to leave it there. But a spirited debate, as ever. Donica McCarthy there.
Yeah, I mean...
Let us know your thoughts.
I don't know why the Saudis would want us to put more of our oil on the market. That would be worse for them. But clearly, they know a thing or two about getting rich through oil.
Yeah, they do, yeah. Anyway, let us know your thoughts. We've got lots more coming up. Do not go anywhere. We'll be back in just one tick.
Yeah, after your latest weather forecast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. It's pretty wet out there for many of us at the moment, but something drier and sunnier is on the cards for tomorrow. Worth noting, as well as the sunnier weather though, we're going to see a slight drop in our temperatures. That's because we're going to get colder air feeding its way downwards from the north. Now that colder air is already across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, so a chilly feel here and a cold start to the night with often clear skies but some wintry showers coming into some northern and eastern parts towards the north. Further south, cloudy to start the night with the rain then clearing away, allowing for clearer skies to develop. And with those clear skies and that colder air, for many, temperatures dropping below freezing just towards the south, just about staying above. But we could see temperatures in parts of Scotland getting as low as -10 Celsius. It's a very cold, frosty, icy start to the day for many of us tomorrow morning. Widespread ice, could be a bit more snow in some places as well, so that could cause some problems first best thing. Also an ice risk across Northern Ireland and much of England and Wales as well. But all the while there will be a lot of bright sunny weather to be had. Towards the south, less of an ice risk here. There could be some around, but even so there could be some frost in places as well. So plenty of sunshine on offer first thing tomorrow morning, perhaps just a bit more cloud towards the east. However, as we go through the day, some high-level clouds going to push its way in from the west, so that sunshine is going to turn a bit milky, a bit hazy perhaps, before some wet weather arrives from the west later on. Temperatures are going to be markedly down compared to of late, but with that sunshine, well, it's going to feel relatively pleasant. Many of us have been crying for some sunshine recently. Then as we go through the evening, as I mentioned, we have some wet and windy weather coming in, and that's going to bring some hill snow, particularly across northern and eastern parts as we go overnight into Sunday. More changeable weather to come as we go into next week. Whatever you're up to, enjoy the rest of your day.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want you to boost your bank account with an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. There's also a terrific £10,000 to spend on a Riviera travel holiday of a lifetime for two. So whether you fancy a cruise or an escorted tour, you'll have over 30 worldwide destinations to choose from.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
We're sort of all looking on here, hoping this story is right.
I think we've all got a little way to go yet, but apparently the Super 60s, we reach our creative peak at the age of 67, so we've all got ages to go. But what's surprising in this report is who's already 67? Madonna, 67. Yeah. Kevin Bacon, Tim Burton, I could kind of understand. Gary Oldman, maybe. But there's loads of people out there that are already in their creative zenith. They're already putting out more than they ever done before. 63% feel more creative than when they were in their 30s.
Madonna's past her peak. She's not producing or letting anything else.
I'll let you have Liam Gallagher.
I'm not letting you have Madonna, Tim.
I am.
No,
Madonna's
you're not.
still very raunchy and sexy and somebody that I could...
At 67, have you seen the pictures of her recently?
Yes,
Absolutely. No way.
Well, also Paul Weller's in that category as well, and he's still
producing.
super
sexy.
Yeah.
But the report says that at 67, you're obviously mainly starting to retire or take a step back. That's when your creative juices flow.
Well,
that you take up something new, like learning a new language, going to concerts more. So something to look forward to in your 60s.
Well, I think it's very true, because I do think, I mean, speaking from experience, I think that this country is ageist, is absolutely ageist, and sort of our industry is ageist.
Which is ironic, because we do have money to spend, you know. And we're actually, a little bit more than somebody that's Generation X and Z, that only 25% haven't had a drink in the last 12 months. At least our 50, 60-year-olds still drink.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Friday, the 13th of February. I'm Emily Carver.
And I'm Tom Harwood. Now, Palestine Action wins a High Court challenge over the group's ban as a terrorist organisation, a ruling the government now will appeal.
Yes, I'm here at the Royal Courts of Justice, where judges have ruled that prescribing Palestine Action a terror group is disproportionate. Find out more about the reaction to that very soon.
Well, the Prime Minister, where is he? He's in Germany this time to face European allies and lay out his big plan for security, with Moscow firmly in his sight. But back at home, yet another resignation rocks number 10.
In a very sober manner, we should first clean.
Yes, the Prime Minister has swapped troubles at home for troubles abroad. Here at the Munich Security Conference, they're talking that we are in a world of wrecking ball politics. I'll tell you what that might mean shortly.
Also, breaking news in the last hour. A 25-year-old man who tried to kill a uniformed British Army officer near an army barracks in Kent has received a life sentence. We're live outside Maidstone Crown Court.
Anthony Eason showed no emotion upon hearing that sentence, with a minimum term of 7 years and 162 days. I'll have the reaction to that sentence from outside the court here throughout the afternoon.
And it gets worse for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Further damaging allegations as he's accused of passing on a private treasury note to a banker friend.
Also claims Glasgow has become a magnet for asylum seekers after figures show a huge surge in homelessness applications from outside of Scotland.
Well, after the SNP begged the UK government to put a hold on asylum seekers claiming asylum here in Glasgow, it's now emerged that in the 3 years since the Scottish government changed the law, nearly 4,500 people have claimed homelessness in Glasgow from outside of Scotland.
It's turning into a busy Friday of news. Sometimes Friday is sort of, sorry, Emily, we're trying to ease you back into the job. It's supposed to be a nice, easy, pre-planned show, and all this breaking news keeps happening.
There's quite a lot going on, isn't there? And there's also another topic that I do want to discuss, this hideous case of this nursery worker, a male nursery worker who's working in a nursery for a number of years in North London, convicted of 56 I believe it was, sexual offences spanning nearly 2 decades. Absolutely hideous story. And it does raise the question has been raised by many people, to be honest. Should male people, should men, be allowed to work in nurseries? Should they? Should they? How would you feel with a little tiny toddler and there's a male nursery worker? Or would that be just far too discriminatory, and actually even at that young age, male role models are important?
Yeah.
It's a difficult one.
I'm not sure it would be perhaps the best decision to... I don't know how many men actually work in nurseries, but to make
Apparently
them all...
they're between 3 and 5%, but they account for perhaps 60% of abuse. That's Australian figures, so it may be different here. I don't think we have the stats.
The extraordinary thing about this particular case is just how many warning signs there were, how many parents were complaining, how this man...
This is Vincent Chan, by the way.
And he was promoted to a more senior role that would mean that he no longer had to change the children. And he demoted himself so that he would continue to change the children. I mean, how much more of a glaring, flashing red warning light do you need than something like that? And yet he continued to go on for years abusing children.
Yeah, because some of these children won't be speaking fluently at this stage. They may not be able to tell their parents whether something had happened to them. So there'll be parents and families out there who aren't 100% sure whether their child was mishandled or assaulted. I mean, it's absolutely shocking. So we're going to have that debate a little later on in the show. Do get in touch, gbnews.com/your say. Lots to get through after the headlines.
Good afternoon. It's 4 minutes past 1. These are your headlines. Palestine Action has won a High Court challenge against the Home Office's decision to ban it as a terror group. The proscription, which began last summer, made being a member of the group or supporting it a criminal offence, punishable by up to 14 years in prison. However, it will remain outlawed for now to allow further arguments, and the Home Secretary has said the government will appeal. The Met Police, meanwhile, said it will focus on gathering evidence of potential offences where support for Palestine Action is expressed, rather than making arrests at the time. That's in its response to the ruling. In other news now, a man who repeatedly stabbed a uniformed British Army officer with 2 knives has been sentenced to life with a minimum term of 7 years and 162 days. Anthony Assan, who stabbed Lieutenant Colonel Mark Teaton outside Brompton Barracks in 2024, was told he's unlikely to ever be released back into the community. Mr Justice Pickens says Assan will be detained in hospital for as long as necessary due to his ill mental health. Sir Keir Starmer is in Germany today as world leaders gather to address the Munich Security Conference. Officials will discuss the top issues facing the world in 2026, including the transatlantic alliance and Europe's security architecture. As he made his way to Germany, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned Europe of a new era of geopolitics ahead of a major speech. Meanwhile, back in the UK, the Prime Minister has faced a Whitehall revolt over his decision to sack Britain's most senior civil servant. The Times is reporting that government officials refused to sign off on the move because it would cost the taxpayer £250,000 that could not be justified. Sir Keir Starmer overrode their concerns and agreed to the payout and sacked Sir Chris Wormold. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho called out the Prime Minister's lack of control.
It's chaos. I mean, that's what it looks like. He is going through personnel like he's running through water. And at the moment, you know, he sacked his director of comms. He's not got a cabinet secretary. And it's not clear who is running the country.
Elsewhere, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor reportedly leaked a confidential Treasury briefing to a banker friend while he was trade envoy. That's according to the Telegraph newspaper. It's understood that in 2010, the former prince passed on a memo about the Icelandic financial crisis to Jonathan Rowland, the former chief executive of Bank Haviland, a bank that was connected to a major investigation by Icelandic authorities at the time. Mr Mountbatten-Windsor, who was the UK's then trade envoy, suggested the information might be useful to his friend to, quote, before you make your move. US President Donald Trump has reversed a key Obama-era scientific ruling that underpins all federal actions on curbing planet-warming gases. The move has been criticised by environmental groups, but the White House has called the reversal the largest deregulation in American history, saying it would make cars cheaper and bring down costs for automakers. Now, NASA and SpaceX are launching 4 astronauts into space to take them into the International Space Station. The SpaceX rocket lifted off from Florida this morning with a crew of 2 US NASA astronauts, a French astronaut and a Russian cosmonaut, all headed to the International Space Station for an 8-month science mission in Earth's orbit. And a 4-day health alert for cold weather has begun in England amid an Arctic blast of cold air, as the Met Office warned of snow and ice in some areas. The alert covers central and northern areas and runs until 8 a.m. on Monday. Today is set to feel much colder for the UK, with temperatures plummeting overnight, bringing the first widespread frost of February. Those are your headlines for now. Now it's time for the finance.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3602 and 1.1471 euros. The price of gold is £3,655 and 4 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100's at 10,040 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past 1. Yes, the High Court has ruled that the ban of Palestine action under terrorism legislation is unlawful.
Well, the judges ruled that the ban must remain in place until the next hearing takes place on the 20th of February.
The Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has expressed her disappointment at the decision, adding that the government will appeal the High Court's decision.
Well, our political correspondent Olivia Utley joins us now from outside the High Court. Olivia, this is not something that the government wanted nor needed.
no, this is another real headache for the government at a time when they've had quite enough headaches to be getting on with. The ban on Palestine Action, prescribing it as a terror group, was a decision made by the former Home Secretary Yvette Cooper in July last year. There was outrage among pro-Palestine activists when the decision was made. They said that it was an infringement upon their free speech, and the head of Palestine Action launched this judicial review. Now that has completed, with judges ruling this morning that indeed it is an infringement on Palestine Action supporters' free speech to prescribe them as a terror organisation, putting them on a level playing field with, for example, supporters of ISIS. Of course, this is a real problem for the Home Secretary, the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. She is clearly furious about it, and it speaks to something wider that's been going on in Westminster for a while now. This idea that the country is run not by politicians who have been elected by the people, but by judges. There's been a lot of worry about that, both from Conservative MPs I've been speaking to and a few Labour MPs too. Inability to get through, for example, immigration policies because of the courts. This will only add fuel to the fire of that argument. Shabana Mahmood has already said that she is going to appeal this decision. We can expect that appeal to take place later this year. In the meantime, the police, the Metropolitan Police, are in a bit of a tricky situation. They have said that although for now the Palestine Action is still prescribed as a terror group while we await the conclusion of these proceedings, the Metropolitan Police have said that they will not be arresting members of the Palestine Action group. What they'll be doing instead is just gathering evidence for when these proceedings are concluded. So anyone holding a Palestine Action banner over the next few weeks and months, you won't be arrested, but your number will be taken down and you might be contacted in the future. At the moment, we don't know which way this Court of Appeal ruling is going to go, but there are Labour MPs who are talking about judicial overreach here, overruling what an elected member of the government ruled just last year.
Thank you very much indeed. Olivia Utley there outside the High Court. We'll speak to you in a little bit, I hope. Tom, is that not a contradiction then? If this is going to be appealed by the government and as it stands, Palestine Action is still a prescribed terrorist organisation, then how can the police say, oh, we're just going to keep a note of people and not actually make any arrests? It doesn't make sense, does it? The law is the law. Are they just, you know, hoping or believe that it probably is going to go against the government?
Yeah, well, of course, I mean, the police are operationally independent. They can choose how they enforce the law. They will argue that they are enforcing the law, but in a slightly different way than they were 3 hours ago.
So they're saying we'll focus on gathering evidence of the offences and the people involved to provide opportunities for enforcement at a later date. So essentially they're postponing the enforcement of the law pending whatever happens here. Is that okay?
I can understand why they're doing this. I mean, it must be the most annoying waste of resources to arrest people for holding up bits of paper. It's annoying. I mean, it is the fault of the people knowingly breaking the law and trying to get arrested.
Didn't they?
I mean, it's a huge waste of resources, right? But ultimately, I mean, either we have law in this country or we don't. Both houses of Parliament voted for this. Both houses. I mean, come on.
Well, can we speak to the former Labour advisor, Stella Santokido, on this one? Stella, your views?
I'm very happy because I think I agree that it was a massive waste of resources, and I agree with the High Court judgment. I agree with the statements by the judge, which said that it was disproportionate, and the government didn't consider how the ban would affect the right to protest. And while we acknowledge that the organization does commit and encourage criminal activity, the threshold to be prescribed as a terrorist organization is much higher than that, and proportionality was not applied. Now, obviously, the organization, it's still, the ban still remains until the 20th of February, when there will be a further hearing. And the Home Secretary is disappointed and the government will be appealing. But I do think that what this decision shows is that the comments made by the previous Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, who said that because the evidence was classified, so some of the evidence was publicized, but some other evidence about whether Palestine action should be prescribed or not was not made available to the public. And he said, oh, if you could only see the evidence, you would see that we have very good reasons for prescribing this organization. Well, the High Court did have access to this evidence. They did consider them. And yet they believed that it wasn't enough to reach the threshold. And also, I think that it didn't help that they prescribed the organization. They basically sandwiched it together with two very extreme neo-Nazi groups at the same time. So I think that for a lot of people, the comparison of Palestine action with these extremely fringe
but
groups...
But Stella, regardless, should it not be up to the government and Parliament? Do they not have sovereignty when it comes to this? They decided to prescribe this organisation. Should court judges be able to just overrule it in this fashion?
I think that politically it was the wrong decision as well. Now you are raising a different issue, whether the court should be allowed to overrule it or not. Well, the criminal activity, there is still sufficient legal basis for the criminal activity to be punished. So it's not like anybody's going unpunished here. What the court said is based on your own Home Office, based on your own test for proportionality and for based on your own criteria. If we apply your own criteria in this case, you haven't reached your own threshold. So in this case, the court is applying the law. It's not making new law. It is.
Well, the court
court
did acknowledge that Palestine Action have carried out acts of terrorism.
Yes, it did, but it said that nonetheless, the broader organization has not reached the limit because for the simple reason, and this is something observable, right? So what they said is, if you have to balance the rights to protest, and you have 2,700 people have been arrested over this. Most normal people can see that someone just holding a placard is obviously probably not a terrorist, not a threat. So has this limited people's ability to protest? Yes.
Yeah. So, Stella, I come at this from a very simple constitutional position, which is like, if Parliament legislates for something, that's the law. I think it's a bit strange that we've now ended up in a position where courts are sort of overturning what was a resolution of both houses of Parliament. Now, I can understand that this was an imperfect resolution. Personally, I think that if Parliament was a little more creative, it could have come up with a simple act that would have created a third category between a literal terrorist organisation and free to associate. I mean, they could have banned it without banning people holding up placards. But we are where we are, and I worry about the state of this country if resolutions of both houses of Parliament are going to be routinely disregarded by our courts.
Yes, and I would tend to agree with you, Tom, that at some points the court system that we have does tend to slow things down and frustrate Parliament's will. But in this case, if we apply the same flexibility, what I would argue is, can someone explain to me why the Met Police is wasting their time? Can the Met Police not use its own critical thinking and say, oh, this 80-year-old grandmother, probably not a terrorist, let's not waste our time? No, they can't, because they feel like, oh, we have to apply everything, we have to be by the letter, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, in that case, and if the politicians and the Home Office expect the police officers to do that, why should the court not do the same? Why should the court not say, great, then we're going to apply the law by the letter as you made it, and we are going to tell you whether you reach that threshold.
OK, well, Stella Santakito, thank you very much indeed for your time. Nice to see you. The Home Office tries to do a lot of things, doesn't it? And invariably, judges get in the way. I'm thinking more in terms of deportations and the like. And then the courts always go to the ECHR, use the ECHR article, whatever, to try and stop things from happening. We do seem to have the balance a little wrong.
Yeah.
As you're saying.
No, ultimately, we have had a massive encroachment on the sort of rights of Parliament to legislate. I mean, one of the most unique and beautiful things about the British parliamentary system, unlike most countries that have formal written constitutions, ours is much more malleable. That means that when Clement Attlee won in 1945, he could change the entire country. He could nationalise your grandmother. He could do it all in one parliamentary term. And then when Margaret Thatcher came in 1979, she could undo most of that. Yeah. She could do a lot. She could, and yet, I think since the 1990s, it's much harder to imagine a government coming in, as Attlee or Thatcher did, and change things substantially, quickly, use the might of sort of our unique system to actually completely change the country. That's much harder to imagine.
You'd have to change the entire legal framework, wouldn't you? I mean, on various fronts to be able to make some kind of sweeping change when it comes to the economy or immigration or whatever else. What a mess, eh? Let us know your thoughts. But yes, in other news, breaking this afternoon, a 25-year-old man who tried to kill a uniformed British Army officer near an army barracks in Kent has now been sentenced to a life sentence with a minimum term of 7 years and 162 days. He'll be detained in hospital for as long as necessary due to mental health.
Well, Anthony Essan repeatedly stabbed Lieutenant Colonel Mark Teaton in the neck, face and body using 2 knives in Sallyport Gardens near Brompton Barracks in Chatham on the 23rd of July 2024.
Well, Will Godley, our national reporter, is there for us. Will, tell us the details of this case.
Well, Tom, Emily, yeah, those details were shared in court over the last 4 days when this sentencing hearing took place after Anthony Eason pleaded guilty to attempted murder last month. And those details shared to allow the judge to come to his decision today. And we heard in court today how Lieutenant Colonel Mark Teaton was just moments from home, dressed in full army uniform, when Anthony Eason attacked him with 2 knives, stabbing him in the face, in the neck and on his body repeatedly. It was in fact so gruesome and loud that his wife, Eileen, heard the attack from home. When she rushed to the scene to try and stop the attack, she pushed Eason off the soldier. And it was only at that point she realised it was her husband being attacked. And her actions in court have been described as remarkable. And the judge speaking in court earlier this morning said that the fact Mark Teaton didn't die was miraculous. He said this is the most appalling attack on a serving soldier. The horror of the attack was unimaginable. The courage shown by the whole family has been nothing short of remarkable. Well, in court we also heard how Anthony Eason had been suffering from psychosis and schizophrenia at the time of the attack. He thought he was a character in a video game, we heard in court. But despite the fact that no motive had been identified, the judge, in coming to his conclusion for the sentence, ruled that it was also Eason's animus to the army, having been rejected from serving in the British Army 3 times. That also led to him carrying out this attack. The judge saying the attack was targeted and deliberate. You were looking for a soldier with the intention that that soldier should die. Well, earlier on this afternoon, Mark Teaton was outside court reacting to this sentence.
We welcome the sentence that has been handed to my attacker today, as it reflects the incredible bank of evidence gathered by the police and presented by our barrister of the premeditation and planning involved in the attack against myself, an officer wearing British military uniform. Knife attacks do not just impact the victim, they impact the families and communities where attacks occur. We feel the pain caused by every knife attack that we see on the news, and our thoughts will always be with those affected.
Well, Judge Picken handed the attacker, Anthony Eason, a life sentence with a minimum term of 7 years and 162 days. The judge also said he will spend as long as necessary at Broadmoor High Security Hospital due to his mental health. The judge ruling it's unlikely Eason will ever be released back into the community.
Will Godley, thank you very much indeed for overseeing that, being there and giving that report.
Thank you very much. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Do stick with us. Further damaging allegations for Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. He's now been accused of passing on a private treasury note to a banker friend.
But after the break, Sir Keir Starmer is in Munich, facing allies abroad while questions mount at home.
We've got more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
OK, it's 1:28 in the afternoon, your Friday afternoon, and it's been a turbulent week for Sir Keir Starmer. Has it, Tom?
Just a little bit. 6 days ago, he still had a chief of staff, he still had a director of communications, and he still had a cabinet secretary. Now, that's the most important civil servant in the entire civil service. As we speak today, he lost all 3 of those posts. Right. And it's beginning to look like he casts a rather lonely figure in Downing Street, with sort of everyone that was closest to him falling away around him.
Well, he's jetted off to Munich.
Certainly has.
No longer lonely. He's with his European allies, with hostility from President Donald Trump and threats from Russia at the top of the agenda, apparently.
Well, his trip will no doubt provide Sir Keir with some welcome respite from all of those domestic troubles, but for how long?
Yes, let's find out, because Catherine Forster is there in Munich for us. Catherine Forster, thank you very much indeed for being there for us. So what's on the agenda and how is Sir Keir Starmer feeling, do you reckon?
Well, I think he'll be quite relieved to get out of the UK, to be honest, but he's swapping problems at home with problems abroad. He's arriving this afternoon, probably here roundabout now. He's going to be meeting with the E3, that's President Macron of France, German Chancellor Merz and others, and then tomorrow morning he's going to be making a big speech here at the Munich Security Conference. There's about 50 world leaders here, a very important annual event talking about security, an event which really hit the headlines last year, shortly after Donald Trump was elected. First of all, he picked up the phone to Putin and they talked for an hour and a half, literally a day or two before Munich kicked off. Then his vice president, J.D. Vance, came here, and rather than what Europe was expecting, which was to hear about how America would support Europe and Ukraine in particular, launched into huge telling off, basically, of Europe, saying you've let in far too many migrants, they're destroying your culture, you are suppressing free speech. It went down incredibly badly, so I suspect there is relief here that the US are not sending J.D. Vance or indeed Donald Trump here, but they are sending Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, who tends to be a little bit more diplomatic. But let's face it, things on the international stage, very difficult indeed. The logo this year is an elephant with parts of it missing and the words "under destruction" below it. The Munich Security Conference says that we are now in a world of wrecking ball politics, not just because we have a war in Europe, something that for long we thought we wouldn't see again, which gave us that peace dividend, which allowed us not to spend on defence as much as we had previously or now need to, but also the election of Trump, the lack of surety over whether actually America has our back, has Ukraine's back. We know they want us to spend a lot more on defence. We've all pledged, pretty much all pledged to get up to 5%, but that is going to take a very long time, and there'll be warnings here that countries need to step up much, much more quickly. Also, there's been over a dozen former US ambassadors to NATO and ex-military bosses saying that NATO should not be regarded by the US as a charity or an act of generosity, that in fact NATO has been so important keeping us all safe, but that it also bolsters US global power and, they say, saves the US taxpayer money. We know that Donald Trump is changeable about NATO, and they really want to keep him on side, and not just over Ukraine, of course, also huge concern about Greenland. There's a lot of activity now. John Healey, the Defence Secretary, is also here, along with the Foreign Secretary, has already pledged to double our presence in terms of Royal Marines on exercise in Norway, going up to 2,000 in the coming years. And we understand that Marco Rubio is going to be talking with the Danes about Greenland on the sidelines of this conference.
Well, Catherine Forster, thanks indeed for being there for us. I know you'll keep your ears to the ground as the Prime Minister makes his moves over the course of the next hours and indeed days, but thanks very much.
Yes, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We do have lots more coming up on today's show, but we're going to run you through the headlines first.
Good afternoon. Your headlines at 1:33. A man who repeatedly stabbed a uniformed British officer with 2 knives has been sentenced to life with a minimum term of 7 years and 162 days. Police have stopped arresting Palestine Action supporters despite a terror ban on the group remaining in force after the High Court ruled the group's prescription was unlawful, a decision the government will be appealing. Sir Keir Starmer is joining world leaders in Germany today for the Munich Security Conference. Officials will discuss the top issues facing the world in 2026, including the transatlantic alliance and Europe's security architecture. Meanwhile, back in the UK, the Prime Minister has faced a Whitehall revolt over his decision to sack Britain's most senior civil servant. The Times is reporting that government officials refused to sign off on the move because it would cost the taxpayer £250,000 that could not be justified. And 2 Met Office yellow weather warnings are in force for snow and ice across Scotland and northern England as Arctic air brings a chilly return. Those are your headlines for now. I'll have more news for you at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, thank you very much. Lots more still to come in today's programme.
Can I just say, Tom's just been looking at statistics on how unlikely women are to get married these days. Rather depressing, eh?
It's an article entitled "You'll Probably Die Alone," and for an increasing number of people under the age of 30, it's true.
Tom, you won't die alone. Anyway, lots more coming up in today's show. Further damaging allegations for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and our country, really, as he's accused of passing on a private treasury note to a banker friend. What did that private treasury note contain, and what on earth was he thinking?
Well, all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello, very good day to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. For many of us, it is another wet day, but actually across the north, we have clearer, sunnier skies and also colder air making its way through. There's an area of low pressure just to the southwest of us at the moment. This is shifting a bit further southwards as we go through the day, and a front makes its way southwards as well. And it's this front that's bringing a lot of cloud, a lot of rain across central parts of England and Wales at the moment, also some hill snow. Further outbreaks of rain towards the south as well, and all of this is shifting southwards. That's allowing for the sunnier skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland to edge a bit further south as well, but worth noting there are a few showers here and there. Despite the sunshine in the north, temperatures a bit suppressed, mid-single figures at best. Some places towards the south may just about scrape into double digits. Through this evening then, a largely fine end to the day across many places, albeit quite a chilly start to the night with those clear skies. Watch out for a few showers towards northern parts of Scotland, and these could be a wintry mix of some sleet and snow. Lots of clear skies to start the night across Northern Ireland. A cloudier story though across England and Wales. More rain to come and still a bit of hill snow at times. But as we go through the rest of the day and overnight, we're going to see a lot of this cloud, a lot of this rain clearing away. And whilst there will be a few showers dotted around, mainly towards the north of Scotland and down the eastern side of England, most places will turn largely dry with largely clear skies as well. And with those clear skies then, temperatures are going to drop. Widely we're going to see them falling a bit below freezing, but we could get as low as -10 Celsius in some parts of Scotland. That does mean we're going to wake up to a frosty and for many of us icy start to the day tomorrow, but it is going to be largely sunny. Just a couple of showers here. A bit more cloud pushing in from the west, mainly high-level clouds, so just turning the sunshine milky to begin with before some wet weather arrives later on. Temperatures, well, lower than today, but there will be more sunshine around.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A55 over Britannia Bridge, high winds are causing difficult conditions until further notice. In Nottinghamshire, the A1 northbound between the A46 and the A57 has a lane closed after a crash, with conditions expected to improve after 2:20 this afternoon. In West Sussex, the A27 westbound between the A285 at Chichester and the A286 is slow due to congestion, easing just before 2 o'clock this afternoon. And on the trains, there is major disruption on the Elizabeth Line and Great Western Railway services from London Paddington. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 38 minutes past 1. Now, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is facing yet more serious allegations today.
Yes, he's now been accused of forwarding a confidential Treasury briefing to a banker friend while he was the UK's trade envoy.
Now, this is serious. There are also claims that a woman was flown into the country on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet and sneaked into Buckingham Palace for Andrew?
Well, we're joined by the royal and entertainment correspondent for The Telegraph, India McTaggart. India, thank you very much. What's this latest about this Treasury briefing, then?
Yes, so The Telegraph revealed exclusively today that Andrew forwarded a confidential Treasury briefing while he was trade envoy. He had tasked his then private secretary, Amanda Thirsk, with getting an information about the Icelandic financial crisis. And it looks like he was doing so that he could forward it on to Jonathan Rowland, the former chief exec of a bank that had bought assets from a failed Icelandic lender a year earlier. Why that is significant is because at that time, contextually, Britain and Iceland were engaged in a diplomatic row over British deposits lost in the 2008 banking crisis. So this is yet another allegation against Andrew that he might have potentially been forwarding confidential information while in public office. We know he's already being investigated or being assessed, by Thames Valley Police, who are assessing whether they should launch an investigation into information he leaked to Jeffrey Epstein when he was a trade envoy.
I mean, this is astonishing and, on the face of it, so illegal. I mean, are we aware of what specifically this information is and whether or not this banker friend was able to, well, beat the market on it, use this information to make millions of pounds?
So we know that when he emailed his friend Jonathan about it, he said, before you make your move, so suggesting that this information could have been useful. We know that it was sort of an internal government memo about the Icelandic financial crisis. So given the context of what Rowland did at the time, I think that it is pretty damning, and it's just yet another claim that potentially he was sort of misconduct in public office. You know, we know that is a very weighty charge. It's the same one that Lord Mandelson is currently being investigated for as well. So it's sort of yet to be seen, and we know the King has opened the door for the palace cooperating with Thames Valley Police on the previous claim of information he leaked to Epstein. So this can stack sort of one upon the other.
It's a total abuse of power, isn't it? You're given the job, the role of the UK's trade envoy. You get some interesting information that's potentially top secret, and you think, who might like this? Oh, my banker mate over there. Oh, my financier over there. Oh, this person, he works in finance, he might be interested. I mean, it's outrageous, really, isn't it?
It is outrageous, and we know that it's something that Epstein did very well. You know, he sort of leveraged his contact book the entire time to try and give useful information here and there. That was one of his great skills in how he sort of cultivated the group of people he did. And potentially sort of Andrew might have learned from him in that sense and thought, well, let me help this person in order to sort of boost my, standing with them. But, I mean, while he was trade envoy, it is definitely unacceptable, and police should definitely, as they are, assess this claim.
I mean, it's all of Andrew's family, though, isn't it? I mean, it's not just Andrew. I mean, Sarah Ferguson, we learn, within days of Jeffrey Epstein being released from prison on child sex offences, didn't just go to visit him, but brought her children to go and visit him. I mean, this is the most oleaginous, obsequious family that is just sort of so attracted to money that they will break every rule, every norm, to get close to the billionaire and help the billionaire out.
It's sort of unclear what rules they thought what rules they knew, whether they knew they were breaking them, especially with this one with Andrew. You know, it's unclear whether he actually realised. But of course, with Sarah bringing the girls to visit Epstein after his release, it is pretty damning, and definitely the money-grubbing headlines and the emails that have been released in the latest tranche don't help their reputation and haven't clearly at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the front page of The Sun from this morning. Another royal bombshell, Andy girl flown to UK on Epstein's Lolita Express. They say pressure is mounting on police to launch a sex trafficking probe into Andrew amid claims a woman was flown in on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet, sneaked into Buckingham Palace. Gordon Brown says 90 flights on Epstein's Lolita Express came into the UK carrying girls from around the world. He called it by far the biggest scandal of all. There are so many sides to this story. What's next for Andrew?
Yeah, there are a lot of sides to this story. I mean, look, crucially, as you said, former Prime Minister Gordon Brown has come out calling this the biggest scandal of all, saying, why haven't the police questioned Andrew over what he knew about Epstein's flights and whether sex trafficking took place on British soil? Metropolitan Police previously have said this didn't happen in the UK, this happened elsewhere more, so it's not, they didn't investigate at the time. I asked them yesterday whether they were going to, and they said they'd get back to me today. They still haven't. But I published a story today in the Telegraph based on Epstein tranche emails as well that does literally put in writing that US officials based in the US embassy at the time in 2025 were reluctant to ask for flight logs relating to Ghislaine and Epstein because it might cause hand-wringing over Andrew's involvement. So it is kind of a literal, question over whether they were asking, the British state might sort of take pause and might protect him, it is really quite damning, and I think that we're coming now to a point where he really does need to answer some questions.
And very difficult for our monarch and Prince William too to deal with. Thank you very much, India McTaggart from The Telegraph.
Now, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has always denied all of the allegations of wrongdoing against him, and no criminal charges have been brought against the former prince.
Questions remain about Andrew potentially having passed information on, but there is no suggestion of any wrongdoing by Jonathan Rowland.
Well, now, if you can't get any state secrets to beat the markets, perhaps you'd like to join our Great British Giveaway to get some free cash another way. Here's Hayley Sparks with all the details.
You could win cash and the ultimate holiday in our two-part Great British Giveaway. Thanks to Riviera Travel, you could be jetting off on a £10,000 dream holiday for two people. With flights, transfers and luxury accommodation included, you'll get to choose the kind of holiday you want. So whether you're looking for hotel comfort or on a relaxing river cruise, you'll be able to find the perfect match from over 30 global destinations on offer. And because the holiday is handpicked with you in mind, you know it's going to be perfect. Plus, we're going to give you £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Your summer can start here, so make sure you don't miss out.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's lots more to come.
Yes, Glasgow is under pressure as a city after a spike in homelessness requests, but a political row is now erupting over who's responsible. Can you guess?
Well, if you're in search of some holiday sunshine, perhaps not to Glasgow, but somewhere else,
it's probably raining in Glasgow right now, don't you?
It is, often is. Well, here's the weather in other European countries.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Having seen so much stormy weather across parts of Western Europe recently, finally a change is on the way. It's still windy this weekend in Spain, Portugal and across much of Italy. Spells of rain moving in here, reaching eventually parts of Greece and Croatia. But it is looking drier and brighter for much of Spain and Portugal despite that strong wind. And that steady improvement continues into next week. Still breezy with showers around, but not as stormy as it has been.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
He's Alex Young, 46. He lost his right leg below the knee only last year after a very old football injury caused a bone infection. And you now chose, didn't you, Alex, to actually have it amputated in the end because it was such pain.
Yeah, it was the best option for what I needed. 4.5 years of pain, and just needed it gone.
Yeah, but under those circumstances then, aren't you provided with... I mean, people would assume that you're provided with all the kit you need.
You are. You are given a leg from the NHS, and depending on how active you want to be, they're limited on what they can do. I wanted to do a 5k run for the Dorset County Hospital in Dorchester, and they can't provide me with a running leg, so they can't provide me with a blade. So the best option was to wait a year, which I didn't want to do, and I wanted to do the run in July. And so I thought best option, make my own.
Now, as if you hadn't got enough to cope with, you know, going through an amputation, losing your leg, learning how to walk on one, because you have an engineering background, you saw this as a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, and it keeps my mind active, because you could be sat recovering for 6 months, and I'd already done a year's recovery from an older injury where I lost a toe. That's the one I made from bits from eBay,
Let's have a closer
Amazon.
look at it. Yeah, right. So they are all bits of proper professional
They're
legs,
proper
aren't they?
prosthesis parts.
This is the important bit you wanted for the running.
Yeah, that's the spring-back foot, so that's a bit of an active...
That looks almost like it's carbon fibre.
It is carbon fibre, yeah. And there are different categories in weight class, so depending on how heavy you are.
Yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 10 minutes to 2, and the Scottish Conservative Party has branded Glasgow a magnet for asylum seekers.
Yes, well, figures from a Freedom of Information request show that homeless applications in Glasgow from people outside of Scotland have surged by more than, get this, 3,500%.
Now, that is a big percentage.
That is a very big percentage,
joining us...
bigger than I was expecting.
Yeah, joining us to explain just how big it is GB News Scotland reporter Tony Maguire. Tony, 3,500%?
Yes, indeed, that's an absolutely astronomical number. But, you know, before we go anywhere, welcome back, Emily. Has to be said, the mum, the myth, the wit, the legend. Nice to have you back at the
Thanks,
channel. But yeah, it's been a really shocking development, hasn't it? That this 3,500% over the course of the 3 years. This is all because the SNP changed the law back in November 2022 that meant that, as it is in England and Wales, you don't have to have a connection to a local community in order to claim homelessness there. This has meant that from 22-23, when there was 35 people from outside of Scotland who claimed homelessness in Glasgow, has shot up by more than 4,400 in the last 3 years. Now, Shadow Housing Secretary Megan Gallagher is under no doubts as to where that problem's come from.
Been a 3,500% increase in the number of people coming to various communities in Scotland, but most particularly Glasgow, which has become the asylum capital of the UK. And what we are seeing is that this is because of SNP virtue signalling policies, such as the removal of the local connection back in 2022 that allows for many people to come to these particular communities, putting a lot of strain on the infrastructure and public services. So we know that people are coming from all across the UK, but of course we know that there's many illegal immigrants that are coming to Scotland as well, and they're coming to big cities and big towns right across the country in order to find housing. But the problem that we have is there's simply no housing there for people to be housed, and that's something that's widely known, and that's why that Scotland had to declare a housing emergency. What we need to do is make sure that we're building more homes. That's why today we are announcing that we would build 80,000 homes by 2031.
Now, just last spring, the SNP-led government here in Glasgow, they appealed to Vet Cooper, the Home Secretary at the time, to stop so many immigrants coming to Glasgow and claiming asylum, but now perhaps need to look closer to home at the SNP government.
Really interesting stuff. Well, Tony Maguire, thanks indeed for being there in Glasgow for us, which I know we've said it 4 times already, but I'm just going to say it one more time. Homeless applications 3,500% up from outside of Scotland.
It's just crazy. Who are governments there for, eh? The British people, the Scottish people in this case.
Absolutely. Well, lots more to come on Good Afternoon Britain. Do stay with us as we'll be back outside the High Court, which has just decided that the government can't prescribe a terror organisation that it says is a terror organisation.
Go figure. Let's have a look at the lovely weather outside. A little bit of rain?
Probably.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. It's pretty wet out there for many of us at the moment, but something drier and sunnier is on the cards for tomorrow. Worth noting, as well as the sunnier weather though, we're going to see a slight drop in our temperatures. That's because we're going to get colder air feeding its way downwards from the north. Now that colder air is already across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, so a chilly feel here and a cold start to the night with often clear skies but some wintry showers coming into some northern and eastern parts towards the north. Further south, cloudy to start the night with the rain then clearing away, allowing for clearer skies to develop. And with those clear skies and that colder air, for many, temperatures dropping below freezing just towards the south, just about staying above. But we could see temperatures in parts of Scotland getting as low as -10 Celsius. So very cold, frosty, icy start to the day for many of us tomorrow morning. Widespread ice, could be a bit more snow in some places as well, so that could cause some problems first thing. Also an ice risk across Northern Ireland and much of England and Wales as well. But all the while there will be a lot of bright sunny weather to be had. Towards the south, less of an ice risk here. There could be some around, but even so there could be some frost in places as well. So plenty of sunshine on offer first thing tomorrow morning, perhaps just a bit more cloud towards the east. However, as we go through the day, some high level clouds going to push its way in from the west, so that sunshine is going to turn a bit milky, a bit hazy perhaps, before some wet weather arrives from the west later on. Temperatures are going to be markedly down compared to of late, but with that sunshine, well, it's going to feel relatively pleasant. Many of us have been crying for some sunshine recently. Then as we go through the evening, as I mentioned, we have some wet and windy weather coming in, and that's going to bring some hill snow, particularly across northern and eastern parts as we go overnight into Sunday. More changeable weather to come as we go into next week. Whatever you're up to, enjoy the rest of your day.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could win cash and the ultimate holiday in our 2-part Great British Giveaway. Thanks to Riviera Travel, you could be jetting off on a £10,000 dream holiday for 2 people. With flights, transfers and luxury accommodation included, you'll get to choose the kind of holiday you want. Plus, we're going to give you £30,000 in tax-free cash.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Friday, the 13th of February. Ooh, I'm Tom Harwood.
Lucky for some. Lucky for me, I'm here.
Absolutely.
I'm Emily Carver. Yes, Palestine Action wins a High Court challenge over the group's ban as a terrorist organisation, a ruling that the government will appeal.
Yes, I'm here at the Royal Courts of Justice, where judges have made the controversial and unprecedented decision to overrule a Home Secretary. Find out more with me very soon.
Now, the Prime Minister is abroad again, this time in Germany. But that's not what this picture is about. No, that was about a horrific verdict of a man who attempted to kill a British Army officer just outside a military barracks. We'll have more on that later in the programme.
We will indeed. We'll bring you that very shortly. In fact, elsewhere, backlash in East Sussex as a councillor plans to hand out Valentine's Day cards and gifts to migrants with her grandchildren in tow. Yes, so this is cards for migrants that are staying in a local migrant accommodation. OK, local opponents say the idea is deeply irresponsible.
Elsewhere, as nursery worker Vincent Chan receives an 18-year sentence for a catalogue of abuse, we'll debate, should any men be employed in our nurseries?
And Tom, ditch the dating apps. Asda wants customers to flirt between the shelves. They've even got special Valentine's Day baskets to show that you're single. We'll have all the details, Tom.
Oh, good.
OK, well, this is a horrific case, conviction, thank goodness, of a man, now 45, Vincent Chan, who was working in a nursery for a number of years and has been convicted for 56 separate sexual offences against children as young as 2 years old. It's sickening. There's also been a recent case in a Bristol nursery as well. Now, there aren't that many male nursery workers out there. I think it's about 5% of people who work in nurseries. But a lot of people have been questioning whether they would feel uncomfortable just by having a male nursery worker looking after their child. Should they be allowed to work in nurseries? Now, a couple of you have already got in touch to say that you've got relatives, male relatives, children perhaps, who work in nurseries and are fantastic and love the job. But is the risk too large?
And someone was sending in on Twitter as well that their children had a male person working with them at nursery was very good. I think where I probably come down on this is an absolute ban would be a bad thing to do because you would be sacking some very, very good people. It would be a sledgehammer to crack a nut. But there obviously should be a higher bar for men working in nurseries than women. And in this case that we were talking about, it seemed extraordinary that so many parents had raised red flags, that there were some very obvious red flags in the system, and nothing was done for so long.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly shocking. I mean, there is distressing detail about this case, so just a warning of that. But sexual assault of little tiny children, indecent images, filming, this went on and on. Parents did raise concerns at the time along the way.
I mean,
nothing was done in haste.
So horrific, but also so stupid. I mean, this man was filming on nursery iPads, and yet it still went on. I mean, I think there are bigger questions to ask here than should men or women be working at these things. But, like, clearly, this daycare centre had a horrific lapse in safeguarding. And there should be heads that roll for this. There will have been some people that were responsible for the oversight of the warnings. I really hope that they don't keep their jobs.
I mean, detectives found 26,000 downloaded indecent images of children, videos that he filmed himself, as you say, on nursery-issued iPads, sexual abuse of girls aged between 2 and 4 during nap times. I mean, it really is just the most horrific thing, and I feel for those children and their families. Absolutely horrendous. But we are going to be debating that because there are strong views on both sides. Do toddlers and the like need male role models in the nursery, or should we just not risk it? Should we just not risk it? Let us know. We're also going to be getting into Valentine's Day because Tom has some hot tips for you.
So many.
If you want them.
So
Nobody
many.
asked.
And so successful. Much more to come, of course, very much after your latest news headlines with Sophia.
Tom, Emily, thank you and good afternoon. It's 5 minutes past 2. These are your top stories this hour. Police have stopped arresting Palestine Action supporters despite a terror ban on the group remaining in force. It's after the High Court ruled the group's proscription was unlawful, a decision the government will appeal. The proscription began last summer, made being a member of the group or supporting it a criminal offence punishable by up to 14 years in prison. The Met Police, meanwhile, said it would focus on gathering evidence of potential offences where support for Palestine Action is expressed, rather than making arrests at the time. Now, a man who repeatedly stabbed a uniformed British Army officer with 2 knives has been sentenced to life with a minimum term of 7 years and 162 days. GB News national reporter Will Godley is outside Maidstone Crown Court.
Anthony Eason showed no emotion when he was handed that sentence. The judge ruled he will spend as long as is necessary at the high-security Broadmoor Hospital due to his poor mental health. In court, we heard how he was suffering from psychosis and schizophrenia at the time of this attack, an attack which inflicted Lieutenant Colonel Mark Teaton with wounds so severe the judge said it was miraculous he didn't die. Well, Mark Teaton welcomed the sentence today, and the judge said the attack was targeted and deliberate and that Eason was looking for a soldier with the intention that that soldier should die.
Well, thank you very much. Now, in other news, Sir Keir Starmer is attending the Munich Security Conference today, where the German Chancellor has warned that world order as we know it no longer exists. Global leaders will discuss the top issues facing the world in 2026, including the transatlantic alliance and Europe's security architecture. As he made his way to Germany, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned Europe of a new era in geopolitics that's ahead of a major speech. Meanwhile, back in the UK, the Prime Minister has faced a Whitehall revolt over his decision to sack Britain's most senior civil servant. The Times is reporting that government officials refused to sign off on the move because it would cost the taxpayer £250,000 that could not be justified. Sir Keir Starmer overrode their concerns and agreed to the payout and sacked Sir Chris Wormold. Shadow Energy Secretary Claire Coutinho called out the Prime Minister's lack of control.
It's chaos. I mean, that's what it looks like. He is going through personnel like he's running through water. And at the moment, you know, he sacked his director of comms. He's not got a cabinet secretary. And it's not clear who is running the country.
To the US now, where President Donald Trump has reversed a key Obama-era scientific ruling that underpins all federal actions on curbing planet-warming gases. The move has been criticised by environmental groups, but the White House has called the reversal the largest deregulation in American history, saying it would make cars cheaper and bring down costs for automakers. NASA and SpaceX are launching 4 astronauts into space to take them to the International Space Station. The SpaceX rocket lifted off from Florida this morning with a crew of 2 US NASA astronauts, a French astronaut and a Russian cosmonaut. They're all headed to the International Space Station for an 8-month science mission in Earth's orbit. And a 4-day health alert for cold weather has begun in England amid an Arctic blast of cold air, as the Met Office warned of snow and ice in some areas. The alert covers central and northern areas and runs until 8 a.m. on Monday. Today is set to feel much colder for the UK, with temperatures plummeting overnight, bringing the first widespread frost of February. Those are your latest GB News headlines. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
And here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3602 and 1.1471 euros. The price of gold is £3,655 and 4 pence per ounce. And the FTSE 100's at 10,040 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 9 minutes past 2. Now, the High Court has ruled that the ban on Palestine action under terrorism legislation is unlawful.
Yes, the judges ruled that the ban must remain in place until the next hearing on the 20th of February.
Well, the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood expressed her own disappointment at the decision, adding that the government will appeal the High Court's decision.
Now, GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley joins us now from outside the High Court. Olivia, now the police are refusing to arrest Palestine Action supporters. Is that so?
Well, exactly. This is a headache that the government absolutely does not need. This prescription of Palestine Action as a terrorist group only came into force last July under the previous Secretary, Yvette Cooper. The High Court behind me has ruled today that that prescription of Palestine Action as a terror group is unlawful. That puts the police in a very, very tricky situation. Shabana Mahmood, now the Home Secretary, has said that she wants to appeal this judgment. So between now and that appeal, police have to decide what to do about supporters of Palestine Action. What the Metropolitan Police has landed on is it will not be arresting those who are in support of Palestine Action, but what it will do is gather evidence. So if the appeal court judgment goes in the government's favour, those people could be arrested. It is a real headache for the government because this isn't just a theoretical prescription on Palestine Action. 3,000 people have been arrested for an association with Palestine Action since the prescription came into effect last July. Those people are now in limbo as we wait and see whether the government will win its appeal court hearing. The government does not want this to go unnoticed, as it were. The problem for the government here is that it sets a precedent. Parliament debated this at great length last year and came down on the side of prescribing Palestine Action as a terror organisation. In her judgment today, Dame Victoria Sharp said that she agreed that Palestine Action promotes its political causes through criminality, but she said the ban was still disproportionate as it interferes with the Human Rights Act and with free speech. That is essentially the judiciary overturning a political decision that was made in Parliament. If that can happen once, I think the worry for Shabana Mahmood, who of course is also in charge of immigration policy, is that it could happen again. Some of her more controversial immigration reforms, which are causing problems in the Commons right now, could also throw up legal challenges, and that could be very, very tricky for her indeed. So there's so many angles for which this is very difficult for the government, and I expect Keir Starmer is quite relieved that he's over in Munich, not down here in Westminster.
Well, Olivia Utley, thanks indeed for being there for us. I suppose this one will not be settled today, but that further appeal at the end of the month.
OK, well, let's speak to the Telegraph columnist and author Jake Wallace-Simons on this one. Jake, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Just your reaction to what we've seen today, then.
It's lamentable, it's woeful. The government is in chaos already, and this just adds to the headache that Keir Starmer is suffering from over in Munich, as Olivia said. I mean, it's really beyond me as to why the government took this measure in the first place of proscribing Palestine Action as a terror organisation alongside Islamic State and Al-Qaeda and Hamas, the actual jihadis who blow things up. I mean, don't get me wrong, Palestine Action is a reprehensible group that uses criminal sabotage, including against Bryce Norton, the RAF base there, to subvert and undermine the British state and our national security. But there were other options available to the government. Lord Wolney, the government's former advisor on political disruption and extremism, had proposed an amendment to the crime and policing bill, which would allow a sort of special category created for people who create criminal damage with a political intent but stop short of proscribing them as terrorists, which would allow them to be banned without making them into martyrs for every anti-Semite and Israelophobe and anti-Western fanatic out there. Unfortunately, the government used the sledgehammer to crack the nut rather than taking that more considered position, made them into a cause célèbre, and 3,000 arrests later is being undone by the High Court.
Well, this is the most extraordinary thing, because there's two sort of arguments here. Number one is, what should the government have done in the first place? But we are where we are. Number two is, who should have the authority here to make decisions about our, in effect, national security? Our government, our parliament, or our courts? Now, two branches of government endorsed this move. The government proposed it, the Commons and the Lords voted for it with overwhelming majorities. And now the courts are unpicking it. That sounds like an uneasy constitutional settlement.
Yes, I mean, you're absolutely right in putting your finger on that. That's a problem which is not just alive and well in Britain, but also elsewhere in the Western world, where you have unelected judges representing a bureaucracy limiting the powers of Parliament. Now, of course, Parliament, the point of the tension between the courts and Parliament is that the government is limited in its powers legally. But with the introduction of European law into the British scene, the European human rights legislation and so on, activist judges and lawyers have been able to exert an increasing amount of power over British political decision-making. We've seen case after case in the immigration area of people being unable to be deported because they don't like foreign chicken nuggets or whatever it is. And so it does feel increasingly like the judges and lawyers are having a disproportionate amount of power over politicians. That's an ongoing problem in Britain, and one of the solutions to that has got to be to leave the ECHR. But it's going to be a struggle that's not over anytime soon, I think.
So Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, is meant to have been an excellent human rights lawyer, one of the top human rights lawyers in the country. He's a man who's supposed to understand the law like no one else, yet they seem to have massively messed up on this one, not seen the consequences coming down the line.
Yeah, I mean, Keir Starmer, he's just descended into shambles. I mean, like you say, he's got this background in human rights law, but he's always been on the wrong side when he was a lawyer before he was a politician. He's always been defending terrorists and subversives and people who are standing against the British state. It's new for him, I think, to be suddenly having to think about the interests of our own national security, our national interest. And so I think he doesn't know whether he's coming or going, and he's contradicting. I mean, you know, he's been so against Israel in so many different ways since October the 7th, including recognising a Palestinian state without making any demands on Hamas first. And yet at the same time, he's prescribed Palestine Action, this action which has just backfired on him by being too heavy-handed and using a sledgehammer, as I've said, to crack a nut. He's in utter chaos, utter shambles. That's reflected throughout government, and the country just deserves better. I think we can all agree on that.
Jake Wallace-Simons, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Great to have you on. This is just one of the fatal flaws of Keir Starmer, isn't it? The fence-sitting, the attempt to sort of appeal to both sides depending on who the current audience is. And it doesn't work.
No.
You need conviction.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Just as Jake was saying there, that the sort of pro-Israel community here in Britain does not trust Starmer with his recognition of Palestine and no conditions and all the rest of it, equally, we could have had a pro-Palestine voice on saying, we don't trust Keir Starmer. He said at the start of the war we need to cut off the food supply, energy supply, water supply to Gaza, all the rest of it. And miraculously for a politician, he's managed to irritate both sides of this conflict. And I'm not sure that there are many people actually who know what he believes on it. He's a sort of empty vessel, but one that has attracted so much ire from every side.
It reminds me of what people say about the BBC when we talk about bias, and they say, well, the left don't like it and the right don't like it, so it must be perfect in the middle. No,
It could
false
just
argument.
could be biased in favour of centrism.
Exactly.
Right? Like, there could be legitimate concerns that the left have about the BBC and its bias towards, I don't know, a Tony Blair view of the world. But also quite the same arguments from the right for exactly the same reason.
Sometimes you have to pick a lane and roll with it.
Well, we're talking about the problems that Keir Starmer has because it has been a very difficult week, let's say, for the Prime Minister.
Yes. So he's off to Munich today, where he's set to meet with European allies. And Catherine Forster is there for us. Catherine, thank you very much indeed for being there in Germany. A lot going on today, I'm sure. Tell us, how might the Prime Minister be feeling today? What's on the agenda?
Oh, well, I should imagine he's quite relieved to get out of the country, away from some of those pesky MPs who are currently plotting to get his job while pretending they're not plotting to get his job. There's a helicopter up in the sky. There's a lot of diplomatic cars have been going by as the Munich Security Conference begins here. It's the biggest and the most significant in the world. About 50 leaders. The Prime Minister is now here in Munich, and this afternoon he's going to be meeting French President Macron, German Chancellor Merz, amongst others. He will be giving a speech tomorrow morning. He didn't come to this event last year, but you'll probably remember that the US Vice President, J.D. Vance, did come here and absolutely horrified Europeans here by launching into an attack on Europe, saying that leaders had let in far too many immigrants, that it was destroying European culture, and that they were also suppressing free speech. Not what Europe wanted to hear. And this, of course, just came a day or so after Donald Trump had picked up the phone to Putin, and the two of them had talked for an hour and a half. The world has changed very dramatically since Donald Trump came to office, and of course since Russia invaded Ukraine. The logo this year for this event is an elephant. It says "under destruction." It's got bits of the elephant missing, and the Munich Security Conference says we are now in a world of wrecking ball politics. There is a lot of concern about the strength or otherwise of the NATO alliance between Western countries, headed of course by America, that has kept us safe since the Second World War, particularly in view of the fact that Donald Trump has been, well, let's say, changeable about NATO at the best of times. Now, he has pushed other countries to ramp up defence spending to 5%. We have made that pledge, but look, it's not going to happen for 10 years at least. In fact, our government has only said we'll get to, I think, 3% by the end of the next Parliament, which could be 2034, and we're supposed to be at 5% by just a year after. So all very difficult. And of course, apart from trying to keep the focus on Ukraine, Zelensky will be here, of course. Great attention on the high north and Arctic security. Given that Donald Trump has made it clear that he wants Greenland, they are trying to persuade him that European allies, NATO allies, can manage that risk, can put more people. NATO defence ministers met in Brussels yesterday. The US didn't even send their defence secretary, Pete Hegseth. He sent somebody else entirely. And there is a real worry that we cannot, in Europe, rely on America in the way that we once can. And increasingly, we have to pay more for our own defence and decouple that defence from America, because at the moment, we are so reliant on them, and so many of our systems are integrated with America's.
Catherine Forster, thank you very much indeed for being there for us. Keep an eye on the Prime Minister's movements, of course, throughout the coming hours and days.
We will indeed. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We do have lots more coming up on today's show. Yes, a nursery worker has been jailed for a string of child sex offences. We're going to ask the difficult question that I know a lot of you might disagree on, might agree with as well. Should men be working in early years settings? Should we allow male people, men, I keep saying that, male people.
Male people.
Male people.
As opposed to male animals or male fish.
Male men to work in nurseries. Let us know your thoughts. We're going to be debating that.
But after the break, anger after a Green Party councillor says she'll take her grandchildren to deliver Valentine's cards to illegal migrants.
Oh my goodness, what goes on in your head? Anyway, all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 26 minutes past 2. Now, here's a curious one for you. A Green Party councillor for East Sussex is under fire after revealing she'll be delivering Valentine's cards to asylum seekers in migrant accommodation, taking her grandchildren with her.
Yeah, just pause there. Anne Cross is her name. She says she and the children had painted the love gifts and will be taking them to the controversial Crowborough camp this weekend.
Well, we're joined now by Crowborough resident Sammy White. Sammy, how does this make you feel?
I'm absolutely astounded and quite frankly appalled that this is even a topic for discussion. At what point does anyone, let alone a grandmother, a mother, think or realise that this is at least not only inappropriate, but at worst, downright dangerous? These guys are unvetted, undocumented adult males. And I can't believe for a second that she would encourage her grandchildren to to send Valentine's Day cards to a group of white, British men, let alone, these guys that we are hosting in camp.
Yeah, I mean, she says that sending the cards is a common practice among refugee charities. Yes, we've reported on that before. And that the cards will be sent anonymously to welcome the men. And she goes on to say how there's lots of misinformation about the men who'll be housed in this camp. There's a climate of fear. There's no evidence that children or women are at a higher risk from these people than any other.
That's ridiculous. I mean, culturally, we all know that these men have very little respect for women and young women and children. We've already had so many instances in the press. We've actually had an incident here in Crowborough where one of them was spotted outside one of the schools, photographed. They are sexual predators. These are 500 men, or soon to be 500 men, detained. They can come and go in a camp in Crowborough. They were asked at a local meeting, the MPs were asked at a local meeting, how do you propose to deal with the sexual needs of these men? And the answer was, we don't. Taking your children to this camp to give them Valentine's Day cards is it's not sending the right message.
Now, of course, Sammy, not all of these men will be sexual predators or have any interest in that type of thing. But, of course, you're right to acknowledge the risk factor there. Putting hundreds of men from different countries with very different cultures, as you say, in one area who can come and go as they please, obviously would be a risk. This woman, I'm sure, if they put 500 white British men in the middle of a town, she'd probably complain about that too.
But let's deal with some of the statistics here, because if there are 500 of these asylum seekers and they're all young men, and we know that that's the case, let's even grant that the vast majority of them are not going to be criminals and are not going to be a problem. I mean, the criminal rate in this country, which is a civilised country of laws and stability for the most part, the criminal rate is far higher than 1%. Right? The proportion of people who might commit some sort of crime, let's say it's 2%. Well, that would be 10 sexual criminals that we're just bringing to a... If it's 2% of those 500 people, that would be 10 sexual criminals bringing to a town. And that's quite a low number, I would say, for people that have had horrific starts in life.
And also, if Anne Cross, this councillor, says there's no, they're not going to be any risk at all, no more than anyone else, then why is the camp costing us an extra $5.62 million in policing?
Absolutely. The camp is within walking distance of 6 or 7 schools, and the police are aware of that. The Home Office are aware of that. That's why policing has increased for that reason. As I said, we've already had an incident of one of these guys standing outside one of the local schools. We're having very difficult conversations with our children and grandchildren about the increased risk of walking home from school. We shouldn't be having those conversations. And this woman, by taking Valentine's Day's card to these men, is sending the wrong message. I don't understand.
It's very odd behaviour. Sammy, we're going to have to leave it there, but really appreciate you coming on. Crowborough resident, you are, as Sammy White there, to respond to this absurd story. It's using children as political pawns, isn't it, really? I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm this lovely open borders woman, so I'm going to, make nice Valentine's Day cards with my grandchildren.
Yeah, I think people think they're being empathetic, but actually it's something quite different. Well, Green Party councillor Anne Cross has told GB News making cards to welcome people seeking asylum is a common activity for local people, school children and refugee charities. I joined in that activity with my grandchildren. The cards will go anonymously to the men in the camp as a welcome from the local community.
There has been much misinformation about the men who will be housed in the camp, and this has created a climate of fear. But there is no evidence that children or women are at a higher risk from people seeking asylum than other sections of our society.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's plenty more coming on today's programme. But first, let's catch up on those very latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. Your headlines at 2:32. A man who repeatedly stabbed a uniformed British Army officer with 2 knives has been sentenced to life with a minimum term of 7 years and 162 days. Police have stopped arresting Palestine Action supporters despite a terror ban on the group remaining in force after the High Court ruled the group's prescription was unlawful, a decision the government will appeal. Sir Keir Starmer is attending the Munich Security Conference today, where the German Chancellor has warned that world order as we know it no longer exists. Officials will discuss the top issues facing the world in 2026. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor reportedly leaked a confidential Treasury briefing to a banker friend while he was trade envoy. That's according to The Telegraph. It's understood that in 2010, the former prince passed on a memo about the Icelandic financial crisis. And 2 Met Office yellow weather warnings are in force for snow and ice across Scotland and northern England as Arctic air makes a chilly return. Those are your headlines for now. I'll have more news for you at the top of the hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 34 minutes past 2. Now, lots more still to come on today's programme.
Yes, a nursery worker has been jailed for a string of disgusting child sex offences. We're going to ask the difficult question, should men be working in early years settings?
All of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello, very good day to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. For many of us, it is another wet day, but actually across the north, we have clearer, sunnier skies and also colder air making its way through. There's an area of low pressure just to the southwest of us at the moment. This is shifting a bit further southwards as we go through the day, and a front makes its way southwards as well. And it's this front that's bringing a lot of cloud, a lot of rain across central parts of England and Wales at the moment, also some hill snow. Further outbreaks of rain towards the south as well, and all of this is shifting southwards. That's allowing for the sunnier skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland to edge a bit further south as well, but worth noting there are a few showers here and there. Despite the sunshine in the north, temperatures a bit suppressed, mid-single figures at best. Some places towards the south may just about scrape into double digits. Through this evening then, a largely fine end to the day across many places, albeit quite a chilly start to the night with those clear skies. Watch out for a few showers towards northern parts of Scotland, and these could be a wintry mix of some sleet and snow. Lots of clear skies to start the night across Northern Ireland. A cloudier story though across England and Wales. More rain to come and still a bit of hill snow at times. But as we go through the rest of the day and overnight, we're going to see a lot of this cloud, a lot of this rain clearing away. And whilst there will be a few showers dotted around, mainly towards the north of Scotland and down the eastern side of England, most places will turn largely dry with largely clear skies as well. And with those clear skies then, temperatures are going to drop. Widely, we're going to see them falling a bit below freezing, but we could get as low as -10 Celsius in some parts of Scotland. That does mean we're going to wake up to a frosty and, for many of us, icy start to the day tomorrow, but it is going to be largely sunny. Just a couple of showers here. A bit more cloud pushing in from the west, mainly high-level clouds, so just turning the sunshine milky to begin with before some wet weather arrives later on. Temperatures, well, lower than today, but there will be more sunshine around.
Thank you to our global community for watching and listening to GB News. We're not only the #1 news channel in Britain, we're chosen by you around the world.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A92 Tay Road Bridge, both directions are restricted by ongoing planned maintenance. The A55 Britannia Bridge is being hit by high winds, so take extra care. In Cumbria, the A590 westbound is slow between the A592 and the A5092, with queues easing by 2:45 this afternoon. In South Yorkshire, the M18 northbound entry slip at Junction 1 is shut after a crash, clearing after 3:15. And on the trains, the Elizabeth Line and Great Western Railway both report disruption. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 37 minutes past 2. Now, just a warning that the next segment contains some distressing content.
Yes, earlier this week, Vincent Chan, a London nursery teacher, was sentenced to 18 years in prison for abusing the children in his care.
This case has horrified the nation, but it's also raised an important question. Should men be allowed to work in nurseries?
Yes, so he admitted to 56 charges, including sexually abusing young children in his care. He used his jobs at both the school and a nursery to sexually abuse toddlers. It really is despicable, the details of this case. But we're going to debate with the founder of the Let Women Speak movement, Kelly J. Keane, and political commentator Peter Edwards. Kelly J. Keane, should men be allowed to work in nurseries?
Categorically, no. No way. Not on God's earth. No. Absolutely not. The risk is too high and the consequences are too dire. I'd rather be discriminatory and unfair to the occasional good man that wants to work in a nursery. But I don't. I just think if men want to go in these spaces, then I have questions. But it's giving the keys to children's vulnerability to predatory men who will exploit the access that working in a nursery grants them to children. So why would anyone want to take that risk?
Kelly J, do you accept that there are a proportion of women who are cruel or paedophilic, a smaller proportion perhaps than men, but a proportion?
Oh, categorically, of course there are. But we have something like 80,000 prisoners, male prisoners, in comparison to 3,000 female. And that isn't because men aren't more risky. I just think when it comes to small children, most grown men aren't interested in other people's very small children. You know, there's a reason women have babies and that we are more akin to nurturing. It doesn't mean all of us are very good at it. It just means that we are biologically predisposed to caring for children and men aren't. Otherwise, they would have the baby. So, you know, like I said, I'm happy. The risk is too great. Of all the men, I did some research on it years ago, but the figures sound too fantastical, so it's probably not any point discussing them. But the risk of a man in nursery care offending a child is so great in comparison to the risk of a woman, because we do hear about men abusing children in these care settings, and there are very few men working in these care settings. So you have to ask, what man wants to work with very small children? Okay. And I'm going to say no good ones.
Let's bring in Peter Edwards.
No, I'm not in favour of a ban on men working in nurseries. Let me say, first of all, this is a truly horrifying case. Vincent Chan, a very evil man, committed acts of heinous cruelty, and I have every sympathy for the children who will be affected by it forever and their families, how distressing it must be. In terms of ban, you know, what we need is a proper safeguarding regime. I've got an enhanced DBS, so that's a disclosure and barring certificate showing I'm of good character, just like millions of volunteers have who volunteer with community activities, as I've done, all around the country. And the other point is, once you start banning people purely because of their gender, it creates a lock-on issues. So look at the other end of the spectrum. Very elderly people in care homes. We've read cases of men and women working in care homes. It's only a tiny minority, thankfully, but mistreating the elderly residents, or occasionally acts of theft. Now, of course, most folk who work in care homes do long hours for low pay and often nothing but good. But there are a few rogues within that, as there are, sadly, in many industries. But would we ban men from working in care homes? Would we ban men from working in hospitals, for example, or
Peter,
children's accidents and emergency departments?
Just on that, I'm not sure we have the data from the UK, but I've seen some research from Australia which shows that men make up about 5% of childcare staff, but are responsible for 60% of child sexual abuse offences in these settings. How would you respond to that?
Totally horrifying. Not surprising. As far as I'm aware, there's a higher instance of crime, all crimes, among the male population. And that's just a fact. But again, it's not about left or right, male or female. In any setting where you're dealing with people, it could be the elderly, could be children, could be a GP practice, you need a proper safeguarding regime, you need checks, and you need a good regulatory regime. And I'm sorry some of that sounds a bit bureaucratic, but for example, Ofsted inspected the nursery in question that gave rise to this debate, and we've not heard everything from Ofsted, but it's fair to say they have some very stern questions to answer. You know, there's no compromise on safety, but we need to fill these roles with safe, moral people of upstanding character.
On that point, Kelly J, are we letting the nursery off the hook? If we just say this is a men problem, if we just ban all men, everything will be fine, when actually there are some real safeguarding failures at this nursery, it looks like, some real red flags that were raised and ignored. Are we letting this nursery off the hook?
Yeah, we probably are, but I think, you know, we've seen safeguarding just obliterated over the last few years with another issue that I talk about, which is men who call themselves women in women-only spaces. So safeguarding is something that has become very, very relaxed, and it shouldn't. However, I would say that you put a stair gate at the top of the stairs, not because you think a child is necessarily going to go to the top of the stairs and throw themselves off, but because you know that it's risky. So that's why we have so many safeguarding, and I would argue that a really good safeguarding regime for a venue where there are small children who are in a state of undress, where part of your job will be to change a child's nappy or to wash a child and to be on your own with that child. I just think it's too risky to have men. Just don't. Just get rid of them out of that particular environment. There are also questions to be raised about whether or not men should be doing any intimate care with women in care homes. So I don't think that really adds to the argument of why we should have men in nurseries, because they're also risky to women and elderly patients in care homes.
OK, Kelly, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for coming on and debating this. Kelly J. Keane there and Peter Edwards. I should say that a couple of you have got in touch who have... Charlie, for example, says, regarding the question, should men work in children's nurseries, my son has been working in the industry for 10 years. He's extremely well thought of. Another, Janet, says, my son is an early years educator, very committed to the job. Females can also commit disgusting things. OK, now, if you've been affected by any of the issues raised by this story, support is available at nspcc.org.uk and samaritans.org. Right, well, we've got some breaking news for you. 2 men responsible for a plot to murder as many Jews as possible in Manchester have been sentenced to life in jail after they were both found guilty of preparing attacks between December 2023 and May 2024.
Walid Sadouli and Ammar Hussein were foiled by Greater Manchester Police and counter-terrorism as they planned to target Jewish schools, synagogues and shops. Both men were told they'd spend a minimum of 37 and 26 years, respectively, in jail by the judge at Preston Crown Court.
Walid's brother, Bilal, was sentenced to 6 years for failing to disclose the plot. Our national reporter, Sophie Reaper, has the details of this shocking case.
The faces of pure evil, with murder on their minds and plans to spread terror across Greater Manchester and beyond. Last year, Walid Sadouli and Ammar Hussein were convicted of preparing to carry out acts of terrorism, as their plot of a mass gun attack on Jews in Manchester was uncovered. Bilal Sadouli, Walid's brother, was also found guilty of failing to disclose the plans. An investigation carried out by Greater Manchester Police and counter-terrorism spanned more than 2 years, including the implementation of an undercover officer known as Farouk. His role was to develop a relationship with Walid in order to gather evidence and learn about his plans.
I think the key point where we realised that this had the genuine potential to become an attack plan that could kill many people in Greater Manchester was when the undercover operative met Walid Sadouli for the first time, which was on the 15th of February in a park in the Bolton area of Greater Manchester. And that real-world meeting and connection really made it clear that Walid Sadouli had confidence in his relationship with the undercover operative and that was definitely going to pursue what were his original aims.
Farouk managed to uncover where Sadouli intended to attack, including schools, synagogues and shops. He also learned of the weapons the men planned to use, and at one stage Sadouli reportedly told the undercover officer, "Here in Manchester we have the biggest Jewish community. God willing, we will degrade and humiliate them in the worst way possible and hit them where it hurts." In 2024, Sadouli travelled to Dover alongside Hussein, believing they were about to receive a delivery of firearms and ammunition. According to GMP, he had also prepared for so-called martyrdom. He'd stashed cash around his house and had had a will drafted.
Go.
However, on the 8th of May 2024, a huge police sting operation saw Sadawi arrested and taken into custody. At Preston Crown Court last year, the 3 men stood trial, with the jury finding them guilty on all charges. Sophie Reaper, GB News.
Well, there you go. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and we will be bringing you more on that sentencing outside the court very soon, so stick with us.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Love is in the air. Do.
Watch out, Patrick. No, love is indeed in the air because it's Valentine's Day tomorrow.
Yes, remember, if you need to get a loved one a card, do it now. Asda is doing its bit. Don't know if you've seen this, for the lonely hearts out there. They're ditching the dating apps, they say. Instead, they're bringing special red shopping baskets. So, essentially, you go to Asda, and if you're single, you'll pick up a red basket instead of the classic green Asda basket to show people that you're open to a little flirty chat.
And the idea is that people with red baskets come up, talk to each other, sort of say, that's a nice banana you've got there, lovely melons. Like, I mean, I suppose those are the sort of things people are putting in. Yeah.
I mean, do you think it will be the eligible bachelors that pick up these baskets.
I worry if it will just be seen as a licence to creep.
That's the issue, isn't it?
But then again, lots of romantic gestures that are sort of lauded in society are lovely if a beautiful or handsome person is doing those romantic gestures.
You fancy them, basically.
Right? But if it's someone you find repulsive and they're throwing pebbles at your window, you're probably going to call the police.
Anyway, do give us your tip for Valentine's Day.
For Valentine's Day, I think make sure you've decided what you're doing for Valentine's Day at least 3 months in advance. Because if you're trying to book somewhere today for tomorrow night, you're probably onto a losing wicket.
Oh, presumably you can get an Asda meal deal instead. £12 apparently. Other supermarkets are available.
I do like this idea though. I mean, perhaps we need a different colour of just people who are up for a chat. Not necessarily romantic, but just I think we need to be a bit more friendly. Particularly, I know people are in the north, but in the south we need to be a bit more friendly, I think.
Misery guts.
Yeah.
I blame the weather. Anyway, it's Martin up next, who's never miserable.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, I'm here with your GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. It's pretty wet out there for many of us at the moment, but something drier and sunnier is on the cards for tomorrow. Worth noting, as well as the sunnier weather though, we're going to see a slight drop in our temperatures. That's because we're going to get colder air feeding its way downwards from the north. Now that colder air is already across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland, so a chilly feel here and a cold start to the night with often clear skies but some wintry showers coming into some northern and eastern parts towards the north. Further south, cloudy to start the night with the rain then clearing away, allowing for clearer skies to develop. And with those clear skies and that colder air for many, temperatures dropping below freezing just towards the south, just about staying above. But we could see temperatures in parts of Scotland getting as low as -10 Celsius. So very cold, frosty, icy start to the day for many of us tomorrow morning. Widespread ice, could be a bit more snow in some places as well, so that could cause some problems first thing. Also an ice risk across Northern Ireland and much of England and Wales as well. But all the while there will be a lot of bright sunny weather to be had. Towards the south, less of an ice risk here. There could be some around, but even so there could be some frost in places as well. So plenty of sunshine on offer first thing tomorrow morning, perhaps just a bit more cloud towards the east. However, as we go through the day, some high level clouds going to push its way in from the west, so that sunshine is going to turn a bit milky, a bit hazy perhaps, before some wet weather arrives from the west later on. Temperatures are going to be markedly down compared to of late, but with that sunshine, well, it's going to feel relatively pleasant. Many of us have been crying for some sunshine recently. Then as we go through the evening, as I mentioned, we have some wet and windy weather coming in, and that's going to bring some hill snow, particularly across northern and eastern parts as we go overnight into Sunday. More changeable weather to come as we go into next week. Whatever you're up to, enjoy the rest of your day.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want you to boost your bank account with an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. There's also a terrific £10,000 to spend on a Riviera travel holiday of a lifetime for two. So whether you fancy a cruise or an escorted tour, you'll have over 30 worldwide destinations to choose from.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 869.